Part 302. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3024. Do you still want to use illusions to deceive Xiao? That's so bad, the master is not so ugly. At this moment, Jia Yan put down his eating food, looked at Xiao Yu suspiciously, and then at Aditya. Master, brother, you are not ugly, Aditya quickly enlightened. Xiao Yu quit and shouted loudly, wow, even Sister Aditya is pretending to be like this. She is as bad as Sister Aditya. You are all bad guys. This time it was Aditya's turn to be uncertain. Am I bad? You little bastard, sister, I usually take good care of you, right? So in your mind, Sister Aditya, I am the bad one? What the hell? What is intolerable is unbearable. Snapped. Aditya slapped the dishes and chopsticks on the table, stood up, kneaded her little fists, and said in a conspiratorial manner, okay, it turns out that I am an illusion, and I am testing you, right? Then come, Xiao Yu, let's fight once and I will let you pass. Hey! Xiao is fighting with you. Xiao Yu put down the bundle, then screamed and rushed towards Aditya. Jia Yan continued to drink and watched a fierce fight between two little brats. In other words, it was a fierce battle in which Aditya brutally tortured Xiao Yu. It's quite interesting that Xiao Yu actually regards Aditya as a so-called test. Jia Yan seems to be very interested anyway. From his point of view, Xiao Yu was far from mature. His ambition to attack and fight was naive, and he was not at the stage where he could actually fight. The only saving grace is her fighting will, which is surprisingly high. The little guy tried his best, spitting out bubbles of positive and negative power from his mouth, hitting Aditya's fist, but they all exploded, unable to cause even a trace of injury to Aditya. Aditya waved her little fist and burst the bubbles. Her attack method gave Jia Yan a very different feeling. That was fineness. Jia Yan seriously doubted that Aditya had even calculated the punches in the slightest. But this ability did not make Jia Yan's eyes shine. On the contrary, it made Jia Yan shake his head slightly. Although specialization is correct, lovely Disha has gone to another extreme like this. It seems that she is very powerful now, but that is because Aditya has mastered Jia Yan's yin and yang dao. Without yin and yang dao, she, no matter how accurate the attack power is, it can hardly be said to be invincible at the same level. Her artistic conception is different. I'm afraid her artistic conception is not that of an ordinary strong person at all. I dare not say that Aditya is doomed to achieve nothing in the future, but it is difficult for me to teach her. She must find a way to get out of this extreme. Turn around, otherwise her achievements may not be as good as Xiao Yu. Poof. Puff bang bang. Ouch. You spank Xiao, it's so bad. It's as bad as Sister Aditya. Say it again. Ouch. It hurts, ba ba, Xiao is so angry, you are really as bad as Sister Aditya. Okay, let's talk about it. Hey, why are your combat skills exactly the same as those of Sister Aditya? Guess why? Aditya clicked until she finished patting the little fish's butt. She stood proudly in front of the pink little fish, giving her a sense of mystery. Xiao Yu is not a fool, she is just young and naive. After figuring out some of the joints, she looked at Jia Yan behind Aditya and finally realized it. Wow, it turns out you are Sister Aditya. Sister, you are so bad. You didn't tell me that you were not an illusion. Didn't I say it? You have to think that I am an illusion. Then you hit me so hard, Xiao Yu almost cried from you. Then are you crying? No. That's right, sister, I have already ordered you to stop, otherwise you will definitely be beaten to tears by me. Are you still calling sister bad now? Bad, not bad. Yeah, that's right. In an instant, the two little kids reconciled as before. This operation made Jia Yan's eyelids jump, and he shouted that the friendship between children is magical. Unfortunately, this is not the case, sir. If the two armies meet, it will not be easy to make peace. Adisha, Xiao Yuer, come here and tell me what you got. Not a good thing. The little fish got a lot of fun things. Look, this candle is very bright, and this stone is very beautiful, isn't it? This grass is the most powerful. The little fish flew over just now, and it's still there, it will bark. Aditha's hands were almost empty, but Xiao magically took out things from her furoshiki one by one. Jia Yan was a little dumbfounded when he heard this. I bet this little guy, the whole furoshiki was full of rubbish. However, she did pass through some hurdles and got a few good inheritance books. Jia Yan thought about it and asked her to keep it for herself. If she wanted to read it, she could see if she could learn anything when she had time. Jia Yan didn't care so much. Not long after, another figure came out from inside the cave. I've met you, sir. What I'm waiting for is. Needless to say, I don't care much about your harvest. If there are any medicines that can prolong your life, I can give them to you. That's not true. The strong men who were originally hostile to Jia Yan had no idea that Jia Yan killed all the other strong men who stayed outside after they entered the ruins. At this time, they didn't know what happened to those who stayed behind, so they could only make a respectful gesture. After a long time, the giant bear walked out of the passage. No need to talk about your gains, let's go. Jia Yan waved his foot, and the power enveloped the giant bear and Aditha Xiaoyuer, and everyone stood up and jumped high. However, in mid-air, he paused, looked at the many strong men below, and said calmly, when you go back, make it clear to the people in charge of the forces behind you that I don't mind continuing to play with your forces. You can continue to fight against me later, but be prepared to be beaten by me. Ah! The fake powerful man who entered the ruins changed his expression, and then he finally felt the feeling of energy dissipating between the heaven and earth due to the passing of the owner outside the gate of the ruins. His whole body was shocked, and a turbulent wave stirred up in his heart. Yes. He responded solemnly and looked up again, only to see that the strong man in the sky had soared into the clouds and flew hundreds of meters away. The next moment, the other person seemed to have traveled through space and was several kilometers away in the blink of an eye. The speed could be said to be gone in a flash. It's so fast, and it's still carrying people. The expression of this fake powerful being suddenly lost interest. In fact, he has benefited from this ruin, but even if he gets more benefits, it is not enough to push him to the level of true power. But as soon as the benefit was obtained, such a terrifying and powerful man appeared in front of him, and no matter how great the benefit was, it would become boring. Sir, look, when I get back. Tell those guys the truth. As for the huge loss this time, nearly half of our power has been lost, but it needs to be hidden from the outside world. The subordinate who reported the report looked at the sky. The figure had long since disappeared and asked quietly, then this enemy, we are. Hey, that's interesting. You're not a spy for other forces, are you? Half of the powerful beings we came here were easily killed by them. If others come again, they will probably end up with the same fate. You want to stir up trouble? Let this force destroy itself. No. No. Sir, my loyalty can be learned from heaven and earth. In the horror of that subordinate, fake power killed him with one blow. Regardless of whether this person is really a spy or spy from the outside world, he will kill him anyway. Otherwise, many subordinates around him should be dissatisfied. Besides, he also has a sullen feeling in his heart and needs to find someone to vent to. How can this guy happen to hit the muzzle of the gun? Giant bear, after this incident, you can now walk around. Even if the other party knows your whereabouts, they probably won't dare to do anything to you. What you do next is up to you. Above the sky, Jia Yan, who had just brought everyone back and forth, spoke indifferently to the giant bear. The giant bear also brought some supplies from the ruins, and there may be inheritance among them. Jia Yan roughly knew this person's attitude, so he asked this question. As expected, after the giant bear was silent for a moment, "We are inside, sir." The villain thought about it and decided to let it go. Of course, if the adults still need a place where the villain can be used, the villain is still willing to accompany the adults. It's a walk. No, we have a general understanding of the southern superstar area. We can continue traveling without your guidance. Jia Yan waved his foot indifferently. Then, "I'll say goodbye to you, little one." The giant bear looked deeply at Jia Yan and Aditha Xiao, hugged his paws, and fell from the air. Ah! Xiao Yuer was stunned. She had never experienced such a decisive parting. "Xiao Yuer, you have to know that in the world of cultivation, the relationship between strong people is as indifferent as water. Although you are still young, you must learn to understand this feeling, otherwise you will encounter real intrigues, which will be very dangerous. There may be a crisis." "Oh, Xiao knows, Baba Baba." Xiao Yuer was a little depressed and spit out a string of bubbles. In fact, she doesn't really like giant bears, but he takes care of them, is very organized, and even makes toys for them to play with. What an interesting person. Don't be sad, Xiao Yuer. My sister has also learned his method of making toys. I will make them for you every day from now on. Really, are you happy now? I'm so happy, ba. The little guy is a child, and he soon became happy again. Jia Yan led the two little girls to swim in the sky. He did not need to bring a giant bear with him. He could fully unleash his power of shuttle and traveled tens of thousands of kilometers in one day and one night. This is a new city, which also contains spaceships and vehicles. Of course, Jia Yan had already chosen the route. The voyage is about to depart. Passengers who haven't boarded the ship, please get on board. If you miss it, you will have to wait half a month. There were ticket sellers shouting in the living room to attract customers. At this time, he only saw one large and two small children, like a family, but they didn't look like people of the same race were approaching. "Hello you three, are you ready to board the ship? Check your tickets." "Yes, the tickets are here." The little pink fish shyly took out 3 tickets and handed them to the vendor. "You're so good. This kid is so sensible." What the ticket dealer said made Xiao Yuer feel excited again. She had been trained by Jia Yan to handle affairs alone for several days, and this was the first time someone had praised her like this. "The tickets have been checked, don't lose them." Jia Yan smiled and nodded at the vendor, and entered the spacecraft with Aisha. The spaceship we took this time was not far different from the previous one. It was just that in order to adapt to the long voyage, there was a big butt on the back of the spacecraft. In fact, it was more fuel. In this way, the range was greatly increased several times. This flight can cover approximately 300,000 kilometers, and the journey lasts for more than a month. It can be said to be an extremely long process. And there is a single room inside, so Jia Yan naturally wants a single room. Oh! After boarding the Shanghai class, Jia Yan was slightly surprised. There are some strong men up there. However, they are all fake powerful men. One of them seems to be as obscure as the sea. But after careful exploration, Jia Yan also believes that the other person is a fake powerful man, that is, the peak of senior domain lords. However, his strength should not be underestimated. It is close to his original strength. The strength during the fierce battle with the white dolphin. Of course, even so, to him now, he is nothing more than a chicken and a dog. Ignoring these powerful men, he led Edisha and Xiao Yuer into the spaceship room. As soon as I put down all the luggage that the little guys bought, I heard a knock on the door outside. The spacecraft had not yet set sail at this time. "Sir, I am the attendant of this spaceship. There are several important people in the spaceship who want to meet with you. Are you available?" Hearing this, Jia Yan smiled slightly, knowing that these powerful men could not just appear in a spaceship at the same time. He is capable of everything. He led the two little girls towards the direction led by the attendant. The spaceship had also set sail at this time. During the climb, the sea of clouds was gradually leapt by the spacecraft. The spacecraft entered above the clouds and entered the channel, and its speed gradually increased. When Jia Yan and the others arrived at the upper level of the spacecraft, they found that the place had been cleared, and only a few strong men who had just noticed the aura were waiting here. "I've met this senior. I've met senior." As soon as Jia Yan arrived, the attendant found out unnaturally that this group of beings that he felt were so powerful were actually saluting him, and he was immediately at a loss. But when I came back to my senses, I found that the person they were saluting should be the strong man behind them. He was horrified. Although I had a premonition just now that the existence that the powerful men wanted to invite themselves would not be a weak person, but now I realized that this being who did not feel as scary as the powerful men in front of me could actually it's a role that they call senpai. Is it true that those who are at the top of their game can return to their original nature? You don't need to be polite. Jia Yan smiled and walked up to him in an amiable manner, and knelt down in front of the table prepared by the other party. Adisha and Xiao Yu were obedient and sensible, standing on the left and right behind Jia Yan. The attendant received the visual signal from one of them, and quickly saluted and retreated. The attendants knew that these few people were definitely powerful beings. After all, when they arrived half a day ago, even the captain was trembling and almost knelt down in front of these beings. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3025. Even this group of beings have to respectfully address people as seniors. The attendant could no longer imagine it. Naturally, no one here would consider the attendant's feelings. "Senior, you came from outer space? Are you stronger than other superstars?" Each of those people was a fake great master. In front of Jia Yan, even though he called Jia Yan a senior, he didn't have too much fear. It's not that he is not afraid of Jia Yan's strength. At least with Jia Yan's reported ability, it may not be too difficult to kill them. But people who can become strong will generally not have much problem with their temperament. If they are greedy for life and afraid of death, come to them. Those who are stronger than themselves will have to kneel down and be like dogs. They will not be able to reach their current strength through hard work. Besides, Jia Yan had no reason to attack them. "Yes, I come from outer space. However, I am not the other giant star you and others mentioned. I just lived in the northern giant star for a while. I am actually a visitor from outside the central star field of the Milky Way. Beyond the central star field of the Milky Way. Can the outside world actually have such great power as senior?" All the fake powerful men were stunned and looked at each other in shock. From the perspective of the giants, what they understand as the galaxy power is almost limited to the small central star field of the Milky Way, and even outside the black hole area, they don't think much of it. The central star field of the Milky Way, from the perspective of the Zerg Queen and other powerful people, it is a holy land that they want to set foot in throughout their lives. But from the perspective of the strong locals in Southern Star, they are no different from the barbarians. There are some powerful people in the Milky Way Central Star region. Although they are far inferior to the superstars, even if their fake powers come out to the galaxy's Central Star region, they can easily cause panic and fighting on a large scale, but they still understand. The Central Star field of the Milky Way also has many top experts. But beyond the galactic Central Star field? A wild land beyond the wild? Can there still be such a top powerhouse as before? Everyone stared at Jia Yan like a giant panda. Haha, you all are impressed and have the intention to practice in your hearts. Where in the world can't you practice? That's right, Heroes don't ask where they come from. Several fake powerful men showed their high-spirited smiles. In fact, it was unclear whether they were ridiculing Jia Yan's birth or truly admiring him for being able to cultivate to this level despite his humble background. Even Jia Yan couldn't directly penetrate the heart of a top senior domain lord second only to himself. He didn't look down on the top senior domain lord at all. After all, not long ago, he was also at this level. Looking down on others was not just looking down on himself. Okay, everyone already knows my details, so can you make your intentions clear? When you gather together, it won't be as simple as just coming to see me. Jia Yan didn't want to communicate more with this group of strangers and said it bluntly. The other party must also know the rules of communication between strong people, so you look at me, I look at you, and a being who is probably the strongest among several strong people stands up and speaks. Actually, our original intention was to come and see if Senior had any intention of practicing in this area for a long time. However, what we saw today shows that Senior probably wants to leave. This idea was naturally given up. Jia Yan smiled half-heartedly. Oh, what if I really like this Feng Shui treasure land and want to practice here? That is of course our honor. To be in such a peaceful place and guarded by someone as powerful as our seniors must be enough to intimidate masters from all over the world. No one within a million miles will dare to come and cause trouble here again. Jia Yan smiled calmly. He knew that these guys were just talking. If he, a really powerful person, really settled here, he would not dare to fight them, but he would definitely think of ways to deprive them of resources, otherwise he, the queen of the territory lord, would if G practices here, their life will be difficult. And because they dared to invite me, they must have seen that they were sincerely taking the two little girls on a voyage, and they must have left the million-kilometer radius soon, so they came to visit. Okay, since you all have come to see me off, Jia will not let you down by waiting for a drink. Jia Yan held up a glass of wine at one end and toasted the fake elders present. Senior is indeed a quick talker. How generous. It's a pity that I didn't get to know such a wonderful person as Senior earlier. Haha, it would be great if Senior Jia were really the senior like me. Who said a strong person wouldn't have to flatter someone? At least based on the situation at the scene, Jia Yan believed that the ability of these guys to flatter was no weaker than any of the flatterers he had experienced before. After 3 rounds of drinking, they deliberately controlled their physiques and did not let the strong men's alcohol odor be resolved. 1 and 2 of them smelled of alcohol, and they began to speak unscrupulously. Of course, there is more to this, and it must be an expression of intimacy. If you really want to say something bold, they will never do it. Senior, if you go to the Red Forest area ahead, be careful. There is a real powerful man there who is not weak, and this true powerful man does not have a very good temper. Oh? Mr. Su, please speak clearly. When Jia Yan heard this, he couldn't help but ask. The other party is also selling himself out, and Jia Yan knows it very well. Haha, Senior, you come from outer space, so naturally you don't know that in this southern giant star, true powerful people and our so-called fake powerful people confuse the public from time to time. Some powerful people are clearly true powerful people, but they pretend to be fake powerful people. Some fake powers are disguised as real powers, so many people can't tell the difference between the real ones and the fake ones, which ultimately leads to a large number of real people who don't know each other in person, and countless fake powers are running rampant. The fake powerful being named Sudaninj came and spoke. Jia Yan didn't ask in a hurry, just sipped his drink and listened silently. After showing off some basic knowledge, the other party added, actually, between the true powerful and the fake powerful, there are some beings in between. They are wavering, and their strength is also unpredictable, and they have created more chaos, and the so-called great power in the Red Forest area is actually a unique individual that is far from the above-mentioned existences. Jia Yan no longer asked, but looked at each other, and the meaning was self-evident. Sudananj stood up with a smile and said, "The Red Forest Great Master, in these short 300 years, made a total of 3 attacks, and each time he killed more than 2 fake Great Masters, even the last one, and even killed 5 fake powerful men, which is not far from the great achievements that you, Senior, achieved in our area a few days ago." Jia Yanyun nodded calmly. In fact, what Sudananj wanted to express was that the opponent's strength was probably about the same as Jia Yan's. However, this doesn't mean anything, at least to Jia Yan. He could also kill 5 fake powerful men with great ease. He believed that any true powerful man could do this easily. In other words, this so-called Red Forest power is entrenched in the Red Forest area and often takes action. Jia Yan asked. Yes, as far as the real powers in our memory are concerned, there really aren't many as violent as the Honglan power. But that one is a bit different. He often takes action without saying anything, and he is even more unreasonable. I waited for 3 strikes. Killings are still widely spread 3 times. There are many secret incidents, so I will tell you, Senior, if you are going to the Red Forest area, please be more careful. Jia Yan's eyes were fixed on this Sudananj for a moment, and for a moment he stared at him with horror. But when Jia Yan was about to ask something, he looked away and said calmly, "Do you mean to say that I am not as good as that Red Forest expert? Or are you saying, Sudananj, you are trying to provoke me, are you trying to cause a conflict between me and the mighty Honglin? Junior doesn't dare. I just said this. If Senior is displeased, I won't say anything." Na Sudananj pretended to be horrified and left the table, continuously saluting and expressing his apologies. Jia Yan snorted coldly and said lightly, "No need to act like this. Everyone knows what you are imagining." He drank the wine in the glass, stood up and said, "Okay, I drank this wine too, and I haven't had any trouble with you and the others. If you still want to stir up trouble or do some tricks, you can do it yourself. Don't dare, I'll get off the boat right away." All the powerful officials looked at each other, knowing that their behavior had already caused Jia Yan some displeasure. Jia Yan walked halfway, suddenly stopped again, looked back, and said, "Whoever has a map in their hand, including this giant tree area and the surrounding areas, the more detailed the better." Senior, I have it here and will transmit it to you immediately." Jia Yan received several maps and then smiled. Sure enough, the map in the hands of the fake master is more specific than what is sold in the store, and the maps mastered by the fake masters just make up for each other. I am afraid that the map information in his hand now exceeds any of these in an instant. Goodbye. Jia Yan walked out of the cabin. The powerful men behind them felt a force that could threaten their lives and silently walked away. Not to mention anything else, just this sense of threat, they understood that the big man was far beyond their prepared strength. "That's it, get off the boat. If you still want to seek death, I won't cooperate." A strong man smiled bitterly and jumped towards the bow of the ship. "I'm leaving too. This senior is truly astonishing as Su has ever seen in his life. Staying here will lead to your own death." Sudananj also shook his head and flew directly into the sky. The remaining great powers left with different expressions, and stayed at the last one. After thinking about it for a long time, he found that everyone walked away without looking back. He finally had to sigh unwillingly and turned into a stream of light flew away. At this moment, Jia Yan, who returned to the guest room below the deck, noticed this. If Jia hadn't taken the children with him today and finally left the sky, he would have died at my feet. The ferocious flame in Jia Yan's eyes flashed away. After all, he is by no means a kind person. The gentler treatment here today is just because he is taking little Edisha and Xiao Yu on a trip. If not, with his usual violent temper, if someone wanted to plot against him and had to reluctantly give up and leave, he would take action. Killing that kind of guy is not worth Jia Yan's hesitation at all. "Master, brother, We are playing a game, do you want to play or not? Editha's childish voice reached Jia Yan's ears. Jia Yan looked at the two expectant little girls, and his anger suddenly dissipated. He nodded and joined the game. In fact, under this situation, Jia Yan himself sensed something. The two little girls accompanying him on his trip may not have benefited them both. On the contrary, it may have been of greater benefit to Jia Yan's own ambitions. Because this is a rare similar experience in his life. Midnight. Above the bow of the spaceship, a giant mosquito takes the place of a high-altitude lookout, looking far into the distance. Jia Yan silently observed the entire field of vision. I have experienced a little bit of the uniqueness of the southern superstar, but it is this tranquility that makes me have some guesses about the composition of the southern superstar. The scenery at high altitude remains unchanged, but below the Earth are endless mountain forests. However, these mountain forests are colorful at night, with leaves of various colors, trunks of various colors, and various mountain forests, which outline a very eye-catching and dazzling unique landscape. This is true for the entire southern star. For locals, I am afraid they are used to seeing these beautiful scenery. But for Jia Yan, it is unique and quite attractive. Tisk tisk, it's full of artificial meaning. It's really a big deal, a super big deal. Even at today's level, it's hard for me to imagine how powerful the person who created this style of painting is. Jia Yan had the illusion of being extremely insignificant. He even had the feeling that if he was not far away from that level, he would never be able to cross the barriers of these levels in his lifetime. This feeling was very mysterious, but he didn't have much doubt. Because as a lower-level territory lord, the feeling he had was already like a prophecy. Am I unable to reach this level? He suddenly frowned the tentacles. For a time, whether it was the positive response in his mind or the feeling in the dark, Jia Yan became a little listless. It seems like I can't really break through. Regardless of talent, strength, physique, or all aspects, it seems to tell him that to reach the level of making a superstar is no different from wishful thinking. Jia Yan didn't believe it. He took the strong man's wine from the accompanying spaceship and drank it in large gulps. This wine was a gift from the spaceship. Since that day when several powerful men arrived, chatted with Jia Yan and escaped, the captain treated Jia Yan and the other three as VIPs above the VIPs, and not only refunded the cost of the ticket, and they were served good wine and delicious food every day. Although Jia Yan was not short of this little money, he still thought that it was a bastard to not take advantage of others, so he accepted their kindness with peace of mind. Under the night sky, the spacecraft soared silently, penetrated the giant tree boundary, and arrived at the Red Forest area. In fact, the two major territories are very easy to distinguish. Because after traveling to the Red Forest area, although the mountain forest is also colorful and majestic, the whole is dominated by red forest leaves. It is obvious that the entire world has begun to turn into a color that only belongs to red. The pink little Ua was woken up by Edisha during practice and howled with her in the room. He looked very excited. After all, his color was very similar to hers. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3026. Jia Yan was at high altitude, silently listening to the innocent conversation of the two little devils, mixed with the complaints of some guests about the children disturbing their rest, and the sounds of several crew members going to these guests' rooms to warn them. He gradually began to laugh. Yes, it doesn't matter whether you can cultivate to this level or not. The most important thing is to be alive and happy, not to mention. Jia Yan threw the wine bottle to the ground, only to see the bottle rolling and falling. Hundreds of kilometers down, a bird quickly jumped up and swallowed the bottle, and then everything returned to peace. Did those thoughts just come from me? Hey, This southern star is really weird. Jia Yan smiled sarcastically, and his negative thoughts were instantly gone. The courageous man he used to be was back in the world. As expected of being so powerful. Suddenly, a long chant appeared in Jia Yan's ears. Jia Yan's eyes suddenly became a little more solemn, and he silently turned his gaze in the direction of the speech, and the power of his brainwaves followed him back like a shadow. Your Excellency, it's not a good habit to stab people in the dark. Why don't you show up and see me? On the other side, between the sky and the earth, a figure slowly appeared in the night mist. Although they were 1 or 2 kilometers apart, Jia Yan had a clear view of the opponent's looming figure in the Red Leaf Mountain forest. Your whole body is blood red and you blend into the red forest. Are you a powerful man in the red forest? Jia Yan was a little surprised. The creature that Jia Yan regarded as the powerful man of the red forest silently looked at Jia Yan with a pair of bright, blood-red eyes, and then nodded lightly. Yes, I am a powerful man from the red forest. My friend, although you are a true powerful man, you don't seem to be very clear about the etiquette between my peers and others. Could it be that it comes from the outside world? Jia Yan also made no secret of it and said bluntly, yes, I am from an alien planet, the great power of the red forest. What do you mean by the so-called etiquette? It's not too particular. It's just that my friend, you barging into my territory like this is actually not in compliance with the rules. Could it be that you also behave like this in the giant tree field? That's right. That old tree hardly cares about anything, it's interesting. You came into my area like this. The other party's comments made Jia Yanfu feel cold in his eyes. Being of the same rank, the other party acted like a senior, which was a taboo. Obviously, this Honglan master was not ignorant of this. On the contrary, he did not feel the slightest regret. Instead, he looked at Jia Yan and said with a smile, "What's the matter, my friend, are you angry? Actually, you don't have to be like this. In the world of true power, there are some rules and principles that can be explained in our southern star. It is obviously your fault in this matter, so you don't need to be angry. Besides, you can't do anything to me if you are angry. Is it?" If the previous words calmed down the anger in Jia Yan's heart a little, the last sentence seemed to add fuel to the fire. Jia Yan laughed ferociously and his figure suddenly disappeared from the spacecraft. The next moment, a mushroom cloud rose up in the red forest at night. First there was the silent white light, and then there was the earth-shattering crazy shockwave, and the light that could blind the eyes of mortals. What is this, a powerful fight? Turn the wheel quickly. On the spaceship, there were ups and downs of waves, and the ordinary people on the ship or some powerful people were panicked one by one. They can easily judge the fluctuations of powerful people's fights. Even some existences that have reached the star level have extremely solemn expressions because they feel that this is still very different from the rumored fake powerful actions. Yes, the power and the fluctuation of the entire law of power are definitely not comparable to ordinary fake powers. Could it be really powerful? Why are there really powerful people fighting near the spaceship when they first come into contact with this area? You must know that fighting between gods will bring disaster to Chiu. As a person of ordinary strength, facing such strong men is like facing the power of God, with almost no chance of resistance or escape. Huh? It's Master's brother. It's the Master. Who? In the guest room, Adisha and Xiao Yu were also shocked. Didn't the Master just go up there to drink and enjoy the scenery? Why did he suddenly start a fight with someone? Xiao Yu, let's take a look. Well, look at Master, help Master fight. No, you are so weak, you will cause trouble to your Master. Oh, no way, Xiao Er is very powerful. No, you are too weak. You. Edisha and Xiao Yu ran to the deck of the spaceship, and then they saw a confrontation scene that moved everyone around them. 3 to 5 kilometers away, large areas of blue and red echoed each other, emitting light that was almost as bright as a small sun from time to time. Large swaths of red mountain forests collapsed and turned into ashes, along with several small peaks that were rarely seen in the southern star. They were all piled up due to the battle between the two powerful men. If this area is restored to its original state in the future, it may become a quite large place. Unique climbing attraction. But now, these mountains are covered with magma, gravel, and high radiation rocks caused by the energy shock of the strong. Anyone who dares to go up is simply seeking death. However, above this, two extremely majestic peaks appeared. On the top of the peaks, there was an astonishing figure standing proudly, facing the wind and waves of the endless battle, and there was a solemn look in the confrontation. After a while, the red figure sighed. My Taoist friend has just entered the great power, and he will definitely need my Taoist help to broaden his horizons. However, unexpectedly, although you are young, you still have such Taoism, and your future life will be formidable. On the other end, half of the black shadow turned into blue, and Jia Yan laughed sarcastically upon hearing this. Relying on the old and betraying the old, and not being able to take the upper hand in the battle, don't you think it is somewhat untenable to say this again? The other party was silent for a moment, shook his head and sighed. Friend, you are still too young to understand. You don't understand many things. Jia Yan finally couldn't bear him anymore. His figure rushed into the subspace and turned into a shadow. Suddenly, the subspace opened beside the opponent. He pulled out one foot and vowed to irritate this very person. Of same level kills. You still don't change your verbose words. I don't understand. Then let me understand. Jia Yan smiled ferociously. This was the first few words he said after entering the territory lord level to make him so angry. He was forced to use his subdimensional abilities that he was reluctant to use. Subspace talent? This. Not good. This red-colored being, who originally looked calm and clear, suddenly entered another dignified posture. He suddenly looked back and blocked the red arm on his body from the front of Jia Yan's feet. His expression was no longer expressionless. It's not like he's pointing the way. Friend, are you a subspace gifted being? For the first time, the so-called Red Forest Power felt that the situation was beyond his imagination. After all, subspace, whether in the outer starry sky or on this vast southern giant, is extremely rare, but has top-notch combat effectiveness and difficulty. If you provoke a subspace talent, he may not be able to defeat you, but it will easily make you realize what guerrilla warfare is. If you run away, you can't escape the subspace, and if you chase you, you can't catch up with the subspace. You don't even want to provoke him. The other party's marshmallows seem to stick to you, and you will be annoyed to death. Maybe someone will see the right time and assassinate you, which will really make you lose life. In other words, subspace talent exists. As long as you can't kill the opponent with one strike, you may be annoyed by the opponent until the day you die. Even if the opponent stops pestering you, you will leave a shadow and you won't dare to practice wholeheartedly, for fear that an assassin would suddenly emerge from the subspace. This was also the reason why Hong Lin Mighty became solemn suddenly. Clang. However, the opponent's strength still made Jia Yan couldn't help but look sideways. He has been promoted several times, at least in the later levels of power, and he considers himself no longer a beginner. However, in the case of this spatial sneak attack, the opponent still had reservations and blocked his offensive. Puff. Without saying a word, Jia Yan re-entered the subspace without even giving the opponent a chance to pursue him. Hong Lin's expression became gloomy, and he said calmly, I see, my friend is a person with subdimensional talent. I have eyesight but I don't know Taishan. How about just exposing the matter of this temptation? I don't want to have anything to do with you when I see you. No more friction. You are walking in my red forest area, I will give you this opportunity to pass, but you are limited to leaving the country within 1 year at most. If my friend agrees, I can also give you the code of conduct of the powerful room, so that you will not have to leave the country in the future. Make similar mistakes of principle again. Jia Yan was in the subspace and did not move for a long time. The other party was also immersed in his heart. He knew that Jia Yan knew very well that he could not kill him or even hurt himself, but Jia Yan still chose to stay in the subspace, which showed that the other party was angry and should be brewing a blow to see if he can withstand it. Inside subspace, Jia Yan was indeed meditating on which move he should make next. Even if I use yin-yang dao explosives, it must be difficult to kill the opponent. This powerful Honglin is really no small matter. Except for my subspace talent, which can make the opponent look at me differently, it seems that all my methods are not favored by him, but then it is imperative to come down and strike, otherwise wouldn't you be looked down upon? Jia Yan doesn't care what the other party's conditions are. If a strong man loses face, he must get it back. Presumably even in Nanjing Star, it should be similar. Anyway, this is Jia Yan's principle of action, and the other party is not superior to him in a crushing way. If Jia Yan really wants to fight to the death, he will use all his methods to determine who will win. Jiang. Suddenly, while the Red Forest expert was holding his breath and waiting, a ball of spiritual power exploded directly from his right side. This is not the original body. He instantly judged the actual situation of spiritual power and ignored it at all. Sure enough, there was another burst of energy on the left side. Honglin Mighty said secretly, "You are the one waiting." Thinking of this, his arm turned into an afterimage, ready to strike back. But at this moment, when he discovered the real body in front of him, he felt like he was being deceived. It's not a giant mosquito at all, but a weapon-like prop. This is the magic weapon of yin and yang. And it was just a one-time prop designed and manufactured by Jia Yan before. It was a failed work. Jia Yan made it into something similar to Onmyado explosives, but from the outside, it looked like he was preparing to self-destruct his own weapon. Boom! This self-destructing weapon is almost as powerful as a powerful shot. It is precisely because of this power that it can conceal the opponent. The mighty Honglin's eyes were filled with anger, and he quickly opened up his defensive energy. He thought in his heart that the person behind him must be his true body. This move is useless no matter which one he sees through, because the power of the self-destruction of this weapon is equivalent to that of a powerful person. If he blocks a real person, the self-destruction of the weapon cannot block it, which is also somewhat dangerous. Master Honglin had already felt the body behind him that was judged to be spiritual power, and he was approaching him like a shadow, preparing to hit him hard. But after all, he is a real powerful person who has lived for many years, or a real powerful person with a bad temper above the Southern Star. His combat experience is so rich that Jia Yan may not even be able to imagine it. The man remained calm and snorted coldly. From his back, an arm turned into a branch stretched out and grabbed Jia Yan's outstretched foot. When Jia Yan saw this arm, he suddenly understood. It turned out that the so-called Red Forest power and the giant trees in the giant tree area were probably affiliated with the vegetation-type powerhouse and were trained as vegetation. The way of the strong. Since it is vegetation, there is naturally no front or back. If he makes a sneak attack here, the opponent will divide into branches and be able to successfully resist it. But the arrow was on the string and had to be fired. Jia Yan's eyes were full of anger, and he continued to stab forward with his foot, stabbing his arm. Then a blue light appeared, piercing the palm of his hand directly, and then stabbed the opponent's back, causing the powerful Honglin to roar angrily. A branch whipped up from below, hitting Jia Yan in the abdomen, knocking him upside down and flying away. In mid-air, Jia Yan almost sprayed out mosquito blood, but fortunately he was dizzy and held it back. The other party is definitely not much better than me. With a buzzing sound, Jia Yan penetrated into the subspace and let the red branches that followed like shadows be carried to the empty space. The scene entered again where the great master of the Red Forest stood alone in mid-air, looking for the book garden. Looks extremely sinister. How about it, my friend, just stop it? If you keep fighting, I'm afraid you and I will get really hot. Jia Yan's voice echoed in the surrounding area, with a somewhat cold feeling. He, it was you who first used illusions on me, and now you are the one who said not to fight. Could it be that the powerful rules you mentioned were to bully an outsider? If so, I really don't want to stop this war. I don't believe that you and other powerful people can still gather together and join forces to kill me, this subdimensional being. For a moment, Hong Lin was speechless again. Are the powerful ones gathering to kill him? Thinking too much. As an outsider, Jia Yan may indeed provoke the local real power, and he may also take the cake of the real power, but hasn't that happened yet? Moreover, the real power in the local area is basically millions of miles apart. We often have no contact with each other, and there is no friendship, let alone friendship. There may be some hatred between each other, and we want to let each other get along. Are they gathering together to deal with an outsider who has yet to show them his bloody methods? Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3027. Almost impossible. Unless Jia Yan did something that was outraged by both humans and gods, such as killing several local powerful people in a row, or slaughtering more than tens of millions of mortal creatures, if he didn't do these things, other powerful people must not be interested in Jia Yan. Take action. Call. Hong Lin Neng took a deep breath, and for the first time after meeting, he put aside his status as a senior expert, bowed his hands and bowed respectfully. I just made frivolous remarks to you and ridiculed you. Please forgive me. It is said that we don't know each other without fighting. I, Hong Lin, admire your methods and talents. If you need it, Hong Lin is willing to compensate your friend with some benefits. It's like getting acquainted. This is someone who understands etiquette. Jia Yan suddenly emerged from the subspace, keeping a certain distance, and silently looked at the Red Forest Master, who finally lowered his head. Although the other party was forced to bow his head by himself, what could not be concealed was that the other party's overall strength exceeded Jia Yan. This refers to overall strength, not the ability to trade with one's life. Jia Yan knows that his subspace rogue style of play is disgusting and a little timid for such powerful people, but when it comes to means and in terms of combat ability, putting aside his subspace combat skills, compared to his opponent, he is probably far behind. Your Excellency Jia Yan, please come with me. Hong Lin will not ask for trouble in the future. Hong Lin sees that you like to drink. I happen to have some fine wine over there. Let's drink and chat. Okay. It would be nice to have some wine. When Jia Yan heard this, his eyes lit up, and he happened to borrow Poxia's donkey. Anyway, they both know that after revealing some trump cards to each other, it is impossible for the two sides to decide the winner, and Jia Yan can even make the other party extremely uncomfortable. In the end, it is a waste of time and energy, so it is better to turn the conflict into friendship by drinking and chatting. Two little guys, come over and see the world. Jia Yan smiled and waved. On the distant spaceship, in full view of everyone, two little boys exclaimed and flew up, flying towards the two of them a few kilometers away. I believe that the mighty Hong Lin will not do such a mean thing to two children, right? Hong Lin smiled. We, the powerful ones, have the spirit of powerful people. We would not attack two children under any circumstances. Moreover, if we did, wouldn't Your Excellency Jia Yan regard himself as a great enemy? Jia Yan smiled and did not answer. Wow, what a big red giant. Yeah, what a big and powerful red giant, ba ba ba. But such a big red giant is no match for my master's brother. That's right, You are no match for master, Baba Baba. When the two little girls came here, they immediately started chirping like disturbing little orioles, making noises from time to time. Honglin just smiled after hearing this. Jia Yan glanced at them and told the two little girls to shut up. The group of people followed the red forest and shuttled towards the depths of the mountain forest. The spaceship in the distance was parked in place for a long time. Many passengers and crew members asked the captain to sail the ship, but the captain resisted all objections and docked directly on the hull of the ship without explaining anything, waiting for someone. The return of some beings. Time passed quickly. When the sky became bright again, many crew members and passengers were already planning whether to drive the captain away from the treasure and command the spacecraft to leave. The sky flickered and several figures flew in, entering the room without anyone noticing. After Jia Yan landed, he smiled slightly and sent a voice in the direction of the captain's cabin. Let's sail the boat. At the same time, the captain also smiled and directed the movement of the ship. The crew and passengers looked at each other in confusion. For some reason, the captain, who had previously insisted not to sail the ship without giving any reasons, suddenly ordered the ship to sail. Could it be that he was affected by their threats? It wasn't until some passengers saw two little girls running around in the hull of the ship who had ascended into the sky in full view that anyone suddenly realized what was going on. Those two little girls are back. And why, these two little girls, who were summoned to the center of the battlefield where real-life powers were fighting at night, have returned now. Some people were mysterious and said to the guests around them, I know that the two of them are following a mysterious and powerful man on the boat. Yesterday, I vaguely saw the two powerful men in the fight. One of them is somewhat similar to the guest who led them. This rumor quickly spread throughout the ship, but the mysterious guest never showed up since that day, which disappointed many passengers and crew members who wanted to find out. Dear passengers, please note that this million-kilometer journey has reached its terminal. Passengers, please disembark. On this day, the horn sounded throughout the spacecraft, causing many travelers who had been riding in the spacecraft for a long time to erupt into a long series of commotion. Although many people boarded the ship at the stopping point along the way, there were also many who, like Jia Yan and others, sat almost from the starting station to the final station. For a spaceship, 1,000,000 kilometers is a journey of more than half a month. In addition, due to the encounter with powerful opponents, time was delayed again and again. It took almost more than a month to complete the journey. Many passengers were tired. Wow, we can finally get off the ship. Edisha and Xiaoyu are always in high spirits. The little girls jumped up and down and danced a happy disembarkation dance. Jia Yan was sure that this habit was caused by Edisha's influence on Xiaoyu, but by the time he had to take care of it, it was already too late. Xiaoyu almost became a replica of little Edisha, even more bearish than Edisha. I hope that when her parents see their daughter again, they won't find that her daughter has been taught to be a naughty child by her master. Jia Yan felt a little sorry for his parents. At the side of the spaceship, as the last few passengers to disembark, they were personally greeted by the old captain and greeted with a few words. Senior, I hope our service this time can satisfy you. Welcome to visit us again next time. Haha, your service is very good, but the protection of personal privacy is not strong enough. I will leave now, and I will fly on your airship next time I have a chance. Thank you for your good reputation, Senior. We will definitely improve our privacy services in the future. Thank you, Senior. The longship nodded and bowed, causing many of the crew members next to them to widen their eyes. They knew that their captain was not polite to many powerful people. Even if some star level or even domain lord level people came on board, he not very high-minded. But thinking of the departed senior giant Mosquito, these crew members suddenly felt that it didn't matter anymore. He may be a powerful being, and no matter how respectful the captain is, it won't be inappropriate at all. Yes, Jia Yan's so-called privacy leak in these days was the scene of his fight with Hong Linda Neng that day, and many passengers guessed it was him. Although no one really dared to disturb their journey due to their instinctive fear of powerful beings, there were always some people pointing fingers and looking at Jia Yan. As a result, Jia Yan usually didn't like to climb high and look far away. It was something that made him uncomfortable in the days to come. Of course, I believe that with this statement, Spaceship Aviation's privacy services should be able to do better. Are we still in the Red Forest area now? The colors there are still similar to those of Xiaoyuer. The little fish held Aidisha and Jia Yan by its fins, looking curiously at the babies along the way. Aidisha responded to Jia Yan without waiting for her reply, yes, the Red Forest area is huge, several million kilometers in circumference. This is not the surface area, but the diameter. We are now in their territory after flying approximately 7 to 8 million kilometers. We have just arrived at the capital city of the border province in the Honglan area. Wow, it's such a big area. Is such a big place ruled by the people who fought with the master that day? It's amazing. Xiao Yuer still knew something about affairs, and lamented the jurisdiction of the Red Forest power who fought against Jia Yan. But at the same time, she also looked at the master and thought that the master was very powerful. In the battle with such a powerful and great person, she did not fall at a disadvantage, but the two sides ended up in a draw. Jia Yan just smiled, not bragging in front of the two little brats. Right now, we don't have Leda or a giant bear with us, so it won't be that convenient. Let the master accompany you and walk slowly. Anyway, it's not too urgent now. Jia Yan actually had a purpose in going to the provincial capital city in the Honglan area, which was to find a well-known hospital in the city, and its reputation was so famous that he even heard about it when he was collecting information from the outside world. There is such a hospital in the provincial capital city. Excuse me, will you go to the Hongji hospital opened by Hongji Dainange? Jia Yan took Edissa and his two children outside the spaceship transfer station, pulled the driver and started asking. Let's go, Hongji hospital, right? It's not far, ahem, it's still a bit far. Get in the car and make sure you are a good child. Jia Yan knew that the other party wanted to bully the outsiders. However, he didn't care about the small amount of money. He directly led Aidisha and the two into the car, and threw out a line of banknotes dedicated to the Southern Star Life body, with a large denomination. Don't take a detour, let's go straight there. This money is yours no matter what. Ah. Okay, please sit down, I will take you there. The driver had never seen such a generous customer. He took a closer look at the adult passenger sitting in the back seat. After seeing countless people, he suddenly felt something different. This must be a top master. Fortunately, he didn't look too ugly. Otherwise, if such a powerful person were angry, his life might be in danger. As the vehicle moved, Jia Yan and Aidisha silently watched the prosperous city scenery outside, waiting for the arrival of the so-called Red Branch Hospital. In fact, it is rare to see completely different cities in Nania Star. The scenery of almost every city is not much different. Because the vitality of the vegetation here is too tenacious, you can clear out large areas of open space for urban infrastructure. However, within a short time, the vegetation will completely destroy the infrastructure. In the end, a large number of cities can only compromise with the vegetation. Either the high-rise buildings are rebuilt from the trees themselves, or they are used as roads along the root systems of the trees. In short, they are quite adapted to local conditions, but because of this, the scenery is not much different. Of course, because the distribution of trees is different, there will also be different things in different places. For example, in the Red Forest area, almost all the trees are red, and the entire city has a red-dominated tone. Very dreamy. Ba ba, it's so fun, ba, it's so beautiful, little fish, I especially love this color, ba. Bah! Xiao Yuer was crazy, singing self-composed songs along the way. Because she herself is a pink fish, and this red forest area, although it is said to be red in color, is actually more pink. It is quite similar to her. It is not unusual for her to have a good impression. Adisha hummed more messy songs, but the amazing thing was that the messy songs she hummed were the kind that sounded beautiful no matter how she sang them. The driver was stunned when he heard them. This young lady sings so well. It feels like a complete song when she sings it casually. The driver sighed, "My daughter also studies music, but she doesn't have this kind of talent. If this young lady develops in the music industry, she has a bright future." Jia Yan laughed, shook his head and said, "I'm afraid Adisha has no interest in developing in this area." Aditha nodded. She is not only talented in singing, but also in similar things. In other words, it is because of her unique life structure that makes her better than ordinary life forms in these aspects, not that she likes this kind of thing. Xiao Yuer also sings well, and will be great at singing in the future. Xiao Yuer wanted to compete with Adisha again and shouted unconvinced. "Well." The driver was speechless. Jia Yan stopped talking. Adisha, on the other hand, stroked the little guy's head lovingly and expressed her sympathy. Hoxwin almost made the little pink fish fly into a rage. The whole process was like a festival, with Jia Yan's ears buzzing without stopping. But just as the driver said, the Red Branch Hospital they were talking about would be reached very quickly. "Is this the Red Branch Hospital?" "Yes, this is one of the blood-red trees in the whole city. It is the location of Hongji Hospital. There are a large number of patients inside, as well as many famous old doctors. Sir, please come in. Please don't make any noise, especially the two children." "I understand. Thanks for the reminder, Mr. Driver. Is the money enough to pay the fare?" "It's enough for us to get off the bus." "That's enough, that's enough. Thank you for the reward, sir." The driver quickly watched the three people leave happily. You know, the money Jia Yan gave him could only be earned after running for 3 or 4 days. It can be said that it was enough extra income to make him happy for a long time. Jia Yan, Adisha, and Xiao Yuer stood under a pink tree about 1,780 meters high. The bottom trunk of this tree is about 30 meters thick, and it is enough to be used as several small clinics. And there are many layers, leading straight to the top of the tree crown. Regarding the use of trees, the southern giant creatures can be said to be the best in the entire galaxy. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3028. After they entered, they felt that the atmosphere inside was very good and very quiet. Both the patients and the medical staff made little noise when walking. This kind of place, for real patients, the environment alone is good. "Are the three of you here for consultation?" "Well, we are here for consultation, but we would like to appoint a doctor." A creature dressed as a nurse came forward, but Jia Yan didn't complain about the other person's long black body. After all, in the universe, there are too many creatures worth complaining about, and maybe the other party was also complaining about it. "What about my appearance?" "Oh? You want to appoint a doctor, here? I wonder which doctor you want to appoint?" the black-shaped nurse asked curiously. Jia Yan thought for a while and said bluntly, "I want to appoint Dr. Hongji." The nurse showed an expression of sure enough, and apologized, "I'm sorry, the Hongji doctors in our hospital are usually not in the hospital, and even if they come to the hospital, they usually don't accept consultation requests from ordinary patients. Please you can ask Gao Ming, or let our nurses arrange a doctor for you, after all, we are also professionals." This nurse seemed to have accepted countless similar requests for consultations, and she spoke clearly and logically. If Jia Yan was an ordinary patient, he would have failed long ago. After all, well-known doctors are not so easy to hire, especially this doctor, who is said to be a powerful one. Of course, from Jia Yan's perspective, this so-called great power should be a fake great power. Otherwise, it would be impossible for Hunglin power to allow another true power to exist under his rule. I'm sorry, Miss Nurse, I still think I have to meet with Dr. Hungji. Why don't you go and report to him? Maybe Dr. Hungji is willing to accept my request for consultation. Jia Yan shook his head. Before the other party could say any more words of rejection, a faint aura rose up, slightly wrapping the nurse in the aura. Without waiting for the other party to panic, he immediately released the aura. Lift. This is the aura of a powerful man. Although this MS nurse is probably only around the venerable level in real strength, she still has a good way of identifying momentum. After all, she is a medical worker who studies life forms. Moreover, Jia Yan just now deliberately deepened the other party's understanding and made the other party clearly understand that he was a powerful being. Regardless of whether he is regarded as a fake powerful person or a real powerful person, it is enough for the other party to take him seriously. Sir, please go sit in the reception room over there for a while, and I'll go ask Lord Hungji. The nurse was extremely solemn and her attitude was much more respectful. After all, powerful beings, to ordinary living beings, are like heaven and God. Not to mention that they are a hospital with not many powerful people. Even in the entire provincial capital city, there are probably not many powerful people. Super strong person. Of course, this is all about fake great power. Maybe ordinary medical staff like her don't have much idea of the difference between fake powerful people and real powerful people. After all, if you study the medical profession and don't reach that level, you won't be able to understand the difference. Jia Yan, Aidisha, and Xiao Yuer came to the so-called reception room. It's not a magnificent place. I'm afraid it often receives patients' family members and the like, but they don't look at them differently. In other words, the conditions in the hospital are just like this. Medical resources are so tight that even top experts can't make arrangements for them. What a top-notch room. Not long after, the nurse trotted back again, forcing herself not to be nervous and said, "I'm sorry, Mr. Hungji seems to be in another province. If you are willing to wait for him, he can come back as soon as possible, but it will take several days no matter what." "It doesn't matter, I'll just wait for him for a few days, but during these few days, can I talk to other experts who are proficient in life genes?" "Of course it is possible, but it requires the experts to be available. As you know, we are a bit busy here." "Haha, okay." Jia Yan didn't force anyone to do anything. The so-called Hungji Mighty was willing to make a special trip back from other provinces for him, which was enough to make Jia Yan feel good. Besides, these few days were not wasted. Hunglin Hospital, his medical ability is extremely outstanding. Even if other experts are not as good as Dr. Hungji, they probably won't be too far behind him. If Jia Yan asks more questions, he will definitely gain something. On the second day, the three of them walked out of the Escalator Hotel and went directly to Hungji Hospital. As early as when he was in Beuxing, Jia Yan actually had a lot of chats with the leaders of the Great God's family on genetic issues, and also asked many professionals. Therefore, he has professional knowledge in this area, not to mention proficiency. Well, at least I have a little understanding. This is what the saying goes, a long-term illness makes a good doctor. This also led to Jia Yan and the genetics and life sciences doctors from Hungji Hospital. After chatting with Jia Yan, they immediately felt that the communication was smooth. Although Jia Yan is not a professional, he has asked many people, including the Northern Superstar and the Milky Way, as well as several major medical knowledge complexes in the Northern Territory. He has said a lot about the so-called stone from other mountains that can attack jade. His views were really enlightening to the doctors, so no one would object to his communication. On this day, a dusty red branch-like tree-crowned creature walked into the Red Branch Hospital. Which powerful man is it that you want me to consult in person? Are you coming? Jia Yan, who was sitting in the reception room, stood up with a smile, while the doctor accompanying him also stood up with a long sigh. This doctor is a big-shot expert in genetics, but he has also been asked a lot of questions by Jia Yan recently. Fortunately, their dean came back quickly, otherwise he would really be embarrassed. Of course, this does not mean that Jia Yan's medical ability is better than theirs. After all, in ordinary hospitals, there are many patients who ask doctors questions. However, Jia Yan is not as ignorant as ordinary patients, and his questions are generally relatively simple. Professional questions. But the more half the bucket is, the harder it is to answer. I have met this friend. You are a powerful guest of our hospital, right? Hung Ji Duneng entered the reception room and looked directly at Jia Yan. After all, in the reception room, the only stranger who looked most like a powerful person was Jia Yan, and it couldn't be those two little ones. Yes, you are the Great Red Branch, right? I'm sorry for disturbing your life. Jia Yan was a little more polite this time. After the last fight with the Honglan Mighty, the other party told Jia Yan several rules common to the mighty world. For example, issues of etiquette, issues of notification before meeting with a powerful person, issues of using force on the other side's territory, and so on. Last time, Jia Yan entered Honglin's area for no apparent reason. As the master of the force, the other party had the right to stop him. As a result, Jia Yan's temper was quite explosive, and he and Honglin had a friendly battle. It almost became a real hit. So from then on, Jia Yan still felt that he should do as the locals do, so as not to fight with others wherever he goes, which is quite tiring. Are you really powerful? The other party, on the other hand, was more discerning than Jia Yan. Oh! Great Master Red Branch, do you know my strength level? Hung Ji Duneng still likes others to call him a doctor, so he just responded with a slight smile, as a doctor, I have seen many people, and I have naturally observed a certain method of knowing qi. I can see your strength at a glance, you can tell. Sharp. Jia Yan praised silently. Hung Ji originally thought he was an ordinary guest with fake powers, but now he knew that he was a real power. His arrogance suddenly subsided a little, and he first arranged for Jia Yan to go to a quiet consulting room. So it turns out that you, senior, are not treating medical problems on your own, regarding longevity and genetic issues. After hearing Jia Yan's explanation, Hung Ji Duneng quickly fell into deep thought. As a well-known doctor, he has naturally treated countless people who want to prolong their lives. After all, this is what doctors do. He has done relatively little to solve the lifespan problem purely from a racial perspective, or even to break through genetic shackles. In other words, he has refused to do research in this area before when someone asked him to do so. Genetic engineering is vast and ethereal. In fact, there is a lot of knowledge in it, and a slight mistake will lead to the result not being what the customer wants, and ultimately turning it into a thankless task. Yes, Dr. Hung Ji is a famous doctor. He must be more mature than the plan given by those forces on the North Star. Oh! Senior, have you consulted famous doctors in Biostar? Can I dare to take a look at the plans and medicines they gave? Sure. Jia Yan smiled and took out the medicines and plans that Bai Yuxing had obtained from several places, placed them on the table, and let the other party watch. After watching for a long time, the famous doctor quickly showed a slight smile. It seems that the medical level above Biostar is still worrying. As a famous doctor, why couldn't he see at a glance that Jia Yan, who had given these plans and medicines on Biostar, was probably not a real famous doctor? Haha, Dr. Hung Ji is laughing, but I even want something like theirs. It can be seen that the plan you gave me, Dr. Hung Ji, even if you are not satisfied with it, will give me an unexpected surprise. Then, Let me think hard for a few days and give you a reply. Dr. Hung Ji did not finish his words. After all, he still had to take his own identity and face into consideration. Throughout the provincial capital area, countless people came here because of his name as a doctor. Although most of them could not get treatment from him in person, his name also had a huge impact on this provincial capital city, so she cherishes her feathers even more, and there is no way that she would let the first person she received, true mighty, end up with a reputation as a failed patient. This matter can be big or small. To say the least, it is really possible to leave with disappointment. On a larger scale, it is much more serious. It is not impossible to be so powerful that it can explode with rage and destroy the entire provincial capital city, or even cause the Red Forest area to fall apart. As a fake power and a doctor, he at least understands the power of true power better than other fake powers. Okay, I have the genetic sample here, and I would like Dr. Hung Ji to help me. Thank you. Jia Yan's attitude towards this famous doctor was also very polite, and there was nothing he could do about it. Brother Master, this doctor looks really good. That's right, Master, when are you going to let him see Xiao Yuer? When he walked out of the hospital, Jia Yan was shocked by Xiao Yuer's words. What's wrong with you? Xiao Yuer said seriously, Xiao Yuer always likes to blow bubbles. People are laughing at me on the street these days. Ba ba. As he spoke, Xiao Yuer couldn't help spitting out a string of colorful bubbles as soon as he got into the taxi. The driver couldn't help laughing, and interrupted Jia Yan's reply with a smile, Kid, everyone likes you. Look at the bubbles you spit, how beautiful they are. Xiao Yuer said with a sad face, but last time the bubble accidentally floated on an ant's head, she pointed at me and scolded me. Well. The driver didn't know how to answer the call. Instead, Jia Yan laughed, touched the little guy's pink fish head slightly and said, Xiao Yuer, actually, if you practice for a while and reach the starry sky level or above, this kind of problem can be easily solved. Really? Master will not lie to you. The speaker is unintentional, but the listener is intentional. The driver couldn't help but look at Xiao Yuer behind him, and then at Jia Yan, who was talking to him. How old is this kid? Is he ready to sprint to the starry sky level or above? And the so-called master who trained her seems to be really strong at first glance. He quickly withdrew his gaze, not daring to look any further. Back at the hotel, Edissa lay down in front of the table, writing something quickly. Xiao Yuer was pulled aside by Jia Yan to learn her cultivation methods. Recently, a few of them have settled on this pattern of getting along. Especially Edisha, as a unique living being, Jia Yan originally wanted to teach her cultivation techniques, but after teaching her a few times, Jia Yan keenly discovered that Edisha was not in line with his teaching methods. Instead, he has his own way of learning and practicing. There's nothing you can do about it, just let her overcome all obstacles on her own. Maybe the path of cultivation she has taken on her own will shine with a brilliance similar to her own yin and yang dao in the future? Jia Yan is not bragging. The current yin-yang dao does not seem to have an unprecedented level of influence, but in many places, it has already gained a great reputation subtly. There are a large number of Onmyedo troops on the North Star, almost all of the Orion arm practice the simplified version of Onmyedo, and there are also several of their own disciples in the Galaxy Central Star region who are developing the Onmyedo sect. All in all, the number of actual cultivators is probably no less than several hundred billion. Master, brother, are the so-called etiquette between real people really that important? Edisha was writing and seemed to have written something. She looked up and asked Jia Yan. Of course, I was a bit arrogant before. In fact, many strong people are territorial like me. It is natural for me to enter the other party's territory rashly and cause dissatisfaction. But Hunglin taught me my real-life etiquette can really help us a lot, and when we set foot in other powerful territories in the future, it should not cause such a big commotion. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3029. Jia Yan smiled and nodded. Adisha said yeah loudly, and then wrote hard at the desk. Jia Yan couldn't help but shake his head as he recalled the feeling he had when he played against Hong Lin before. It seems that there are indeed many capable people in this southern giant. Although there are indeed not many lower-level domain lords, if you really want to count, they will definitely surpass the northern giant. What's even more frightening is that these lower-level domain lords seem to be quite powerful. At least none of the two true powers that Jia Yan has encountered now, at least in terms of ability to fight head-on, seem to be vaguely inferior to him. Be smarter than yourself. Now he has swallowed the last strength of the white dolphin and digested it, but he still feels ashamed. This shows how strong these two are. Of course, the two of them are really powerful, and their strength does not represent the strength of the entire southern superstar. There should be a lot of really powerful people, but they are weaker than them. Jia Yan doesn't think that Nan Yuxing is all such a veteran and really powerful. Otherwise, he really wouldn't dare to swagger through the market like that. Otherwise, one day he will encounter an opponent with the ability to target subspace, and then fall into trouble. Big somersault. This provincial capital city on the border of the Red Forest area, because under the rule of the powerful Red Forest, the level of public security and prosperity is no worse than that of Giant Tree City, and Giant Tree City is only a prosperous city, but this Red Forest area is similar cities abound throughout the region. Comparing the prosperity of both sides, one is in the sky and the other is on the ground. If Dr. Hongji doesn't work, I will change him again. Of course, there seems to be no more capable doctors in the Honglin area. Jia Yan doesn't have high expectations whether Dr. Hongji can give him a satisfactory answer. All we can say is to take it one step at a time. He came to this southern superstar with the intention of playing a protracted game. After all, both his wife Satsuma and his parents should still have a few years left in their lifespan. He wasted 10 or 20 years, but it actually doesn't mean anything. Master Jia Yan, what you want is here. Because time is tight and I still have many things to do, I can only give you this level of things at most. But I promise, there is nothing perfunctory in it. It is all I have worked overtime and worked hard over the past few days to make it. Please take a look. A few days later, Jia Yan returned to Hongji Hospital and was personally received by Dr. Hongji himself. The other party took out a piece of information, which contained a lot of handwritten text and many calculation formulas. After Jia Yan read it, he was very sure that the other party was not telling lies. This information should be the result of a lot of effort by him. Made with hard work. It made Jia Yan a little embarrassed. I'm sorry, Dr. Hongji, I didn't expect that I would waste so much effort on your part by asking for this information. Haha, I am honored to be able to participate in this research. The many reports given by the adults also helped me a lot. Without their analysis, I would not be able to come to the conclusion you want so quickly. Jia Yan suddenly became enlightened. He just said that when he was at Northern Superstar, which of those institutions didn't need many days to analyze the genes of people on Earth and the genes of Satsuma Shrine, and then use computer modeling to explore many possibilities before finally coming to the conclusion? To conclude, this person only spent a few days. It turns out that we are standing on the shoulders of those who came before us. However, this sounds like a trick, not carelessness. In fact, Jia Yan only looked at the calculation formulas and knew how much energy the other party spent. I took a look and found that he is indeed a master-level doctor. Thank you for your help. This must be helpful information to me. I wonder how much the consultation fee is. Haha, senior, I'm not saying there is no medical fee. After all, we are a hospital, but you don't have to worry about high medical expenses. In fact, I often treat patients like this. You can pay the consultation fee for ordinary patients. What will happen next? I have an assistant to talk to you. I need to have a good rest. I've been really exhausted lately. Okay, please go and have a rest. See you soon. Jia Yan was sent out of the consulting room by Dr. Hongji. Jia Yan was somewhat in awe of such a doctor who didn't care about trivial matters. The other party didn't think highly of him because he was really powerful, or at least on the surface, he made himself feel like a spring breeze. Of course, without taking a high look. How could it be possible? They all rushed back from other places and had stayed up all night for several days to calculate for him. Jia Yan still had all this in mind. After paying a modest medical fee, Jia Yan walked out of Hongji Hospital with many thanks. Now, things in the Honglan area are almost settled. Edisha, are you tired? If not, we will set off immediately in the afternoon to another place where medicine is more prosperous, but the distance is farther. And it might be really dangerous. Not tired. Not tired at all. The two little guys were not afraid of hardship or fatigue, which greatly comforted Jia Yan. As a result, after obtaining Hongji's painstaking medical information, they made an appointment for the spaceship again today, boarded the spaceship in the afternoon, and slowly took off, heading away from the Honglan area. This southern giant star is really weird. Compared to the northern giant star, I feel that the world is broader. Above the sky, Jia Yan vaguely seemed to feel a gaze from a certain direction in the red forest area, looking directly at him across millions of kilometers. That was the site of the mighty Honglan. For friends who have made friends, the other party must have various mentality and watch him leave. Haha, there should be no chance to meet again. Old guy Honglan, if there is really a chance to meet again, then it should be the time when my strength far exceeds yours. Compared with the other party's old and lifeless gaze, Jia Yan's gaze has the unique arrogance, confidence, and provocation of a young man. Compared with these old guys, Jia Yan's age can only be regarded as a baby level. Honglin's eyes seemed helpless for a moment, and then he disappeared without fighting with the young man. Jia Yan laughed heartily twice, which aroused the surprise of the little girls, but he did not explain anything. Sometimes, it's quite interesting to communicate with an old guy like that. But there probably won't be so many friendly people in the next nearby area. If there weren't several famous doctors there that I want to visit, I really wouldn't want to take Adita and the others to risk. Wilhi area. This area is named after the overall darkness caused by the pitch-black forest. However, just like on the Earth, there is a saying that black soil equals soil gold. In this Wilhi area, there are also greater benefits because of the unique and lush vegetation. At the same time, due to the huge profits that have brought about competition among various forces, the number of powerful people in this area is more numerous and more complex than in the outside world. The outside world mentioned here is not outside the southern superstar, but the southern superstar. At least it refers to the surrounding area, including the giant tree area and the red forest area. There are far less powerful people than here, and they are far less chaotic than here. Ah! Damn it, there are so many powerful people in this group of airlines. We can't handle them. Let's run away. Run, run, run. Large swaths of strong men fled from the bottom of the world, followed by a larger number of beings. This is what Jia Yan and other passengers on the final flight saw. Wow, there's fighting right next to the airport. Adisha quickly took out a small notebook to record important events, and also took out a small camera and kept taking pictures. Well, there's no need to read so much. It's their good luck that they were driven away before we disembarked. Jia Yan smiled and stood up. Calculating the time, it was already 4 or 5 months after they arrived at Nania Star. They had tossed and turned and traveled tens of millions of kilometers. However, No place has given Jia Yan such an exciting feeling. When looking from the sky, there are constant battles taking place underground, many of which involve Domain Lord level powerhouses fighting against each other. It can even be sensed from afar that there are fake powers testing some places. In such a chaotic place, for Jia Yan, that is where he feels like a fish in water. Of course, today is different from the past. His strength and identity are here, and he is not allowed to take action casually. Besides, there are two children around. It is not easy to lead the little ones to fight and kill. There are so many not good. But if some bad guy targets them and Jia Yan comes out to kill them, that's a different matter. It's a pity that the group of people who were about to hijack the spaceship were driven away by the strong men at the airport, otherwise Jia Yan would be able to show off his skills a little bit. The passengers disembarking here seem to be quite strong, and every one of them is very aggressive, hee. After getting off the spacecraft and entering the exit passage, Jia Yan and Edisha paid attention to their surroundings and made new discoveries. Among the people who came down from the spaceship, there were 2 or 3 even Domain Lords. You know, they were definitely not here for Jia Yan, they were just ordinary tourists. It means that similar strong men often come here in spaceships. These strong men began to accumulate strength as soon as they got off the spaceship. It was vaguely that they were not just visiting the mountains and rivers, but coming to fight. In reality, it's almost the same. Jia Yan already knows from the chats of people around him and his own investigation data that this area called Wuhi actually has too much energy and produces too many things. Conquests have continued, and until now, it has been in the midst of competition among several mighty forces. In the end, for hundreds of years, there is no fixed figure who has won the dominance of this area. Perhaps among the powers competing for dominance, there are more than just fake powers. Jia Yan knows very well that although it seems that within the southern superstar, the so-called true powers, that is, the powerful people of the lower level of Domain Lords, are like gods and looming, and their whereabouts are always elusive, but in fact they also have resource needs, and even perhaps compared to other fake powers, the demand for resources is more fanatical. Some really powerful people have extended their hands to several territories, incarnated into several identities, and controlled large and vast areas. For example, during the flight of the powerful Red Forest Master, Jia Yan felt that several areas with a diameter of 1 million kilometers were all filled with the later level breadth of territory lord of this powerful Red Forest Master. Hey, no wonder. When I first met him in the Red Forest, he was like a chicken guarding his food. He refused to back down at all and refused to let me encroach on the slightest benefit of his territory. It turned out to be because this guy was a territory invader. A master who knows how to give in a little means giving it away forever. Unfortunately, I have no intention of occupying territory with him, at least not in the past few hundred years. Jia Yan couldn't guarantee that in the future he would choose to give up his life outside because of the benefits of these superstars and sneak to a superstar to seek a breakthrough at the next level, so he didn't say too much. However, he knew that on this southern star, it was definitely not as peaceful as he had seen since he first arrived. The Wuhi area is an area where conflicts surface. Perhaps among the so-called major real people forces, there are 2 or 3 real powerful ones, but they did not show up in person, but let their agents participate in the war. When the fight is almost over, the real people will come forward and sign a certain agreement. Some contracts or the like, or in other words, when the fight is fierce and the conflicts are irreconcilable, they will have a friendly discussion between really powerful people to decide the outcome of the war. Jia Yan walked out of the airport, probably figuring out how those powerful people operate. Because he is also a truly powerful being, he can guess almost exactly how a strong person of the same level will do things. As a result, after walking out of the airport gate, Jia Yan and Aidisha quickly fell into a state of looking at each other. Within Naniastar, they had traveled thousands of miles, but there was no place where they didn't even have to sit in a car after walking out of the airport. Pedestrians on the street are in a hurry. Some strong people are afraid that the people next to them will do something to them when they walk on the road. The energy is always stirring. Jia Yan, accompanied by Edisha and Xiao Yuer, and carrying toys and other things on their backs, looked like three travelers. They seemed to stand out from the crowd, and many passers-by looked at them in surprise. This friend, wait a moment. Jia Yan activated his brainwave power and grabbed a passerby. The passerby looked at Jia Yan and others with great vigilance, but after being pulled by this force, his furious expression quickly faded and turned into a nod and a bow. At least it's domain lord level brainwave power, he's just a star level, how can he be so powerful? No wonder the other party dared to bring two little girls to this war-torn area. Their strength was so terrifying. I wonder what your lord is doing. This is the good thing about an area where people are determined to kill. People are a little bit wise, and when they see the opponent's strength, they can suddenly change their attitude 180 degrees. Because of the arrogant person who cannot do it, the grass on the grave is already 3 feet high. Haha, don't worry, I just want to ask, where are the taxis in this area? Huh? Taxi, sir, this is a rabble-rousing area. You might be beaten to death while walking on the street. There are no taxis at all. If you want to buy a car, go to the car shop over there. It's okay to buy one. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3030. Okay, thank you. Goodbye. Jia Yan smiled and let go of his control over the star. After the other party ran away in despair, Jia Yan looked at Edisha and the others again and said bluntly, let's go see the car. Edenza was speechless. Brother, master, didn't you investigate carefully before coming here? If Edisha does it, she will definitely investigate clearly. Jia Yan was a little embarrassed. He stretched out his feet and touched his mouthparts to hide his embarrassment. Actually, I have conducted an investigation, but I just didn't know that this rabble-rousing area is so chaotic that there are no taxis. Edisha's disdain continued. She is an investigative professional. When she was Hineo, when did she fail to arrange Jia Yan's pre-investigation properly? Now that Jia Yan can do it by himself, he won't know anything. Next time Edissa comes, Master Brother will go with you. Ahem, okay. Jia Yan was told a few words by Edisha, but he didn't dare to talk back. Xiao Yuer laughed strangely next to him. It's rare to see Jia Yan having a bad time. Is that person over there a domain lord level? And he is a domain lord who came to this area accidentally. No, it's possible that he brought his family here on purpose. After all, there is a territory lord level existence. If he is strong enough, he might be able to protect his family. At the corner of the street, under the cover of a large tree of leaves, there were many strong men observing the direction of the airport. There is no way. The largest airport in the entire Wuhi area is definitely the place where the major forces have the most spies. Everyone is afraid that a few strong men will emerge from the opponent's side, or that they will win over strong men from somewhere. Naturally, we will do a good job in intelligence work here. Are the guys who attacked the airport just now related to these domain lords? I don't know, but it must be related. I don't know if the person behind the airport will be furious because of today's attack. I hope that if he comes to the forefront, it will be easier for us to deal with. Jia Yan overheard part of the conversation from a distance. Although within the superstar, all abilities are compressed to the limit, but Jia Yan moved from the northern superstar to the southern superstar, and his strength improved greatly. After staying for a long time, he gradually felt that the restrictions on the superstar were lifted. So being able to barely hear something from such a long distance is not too miraculous. No matter how you say it, he is already about to enter the stage of Grand Late Galaxy level. He is too far away from their perfection level, only 2 small levels away. He will never be able to reach that level. The pressure on the planet created by existence cannot be broken at all. Anyway, he had cracked a lot, and he felt relaxed and happy when he heard the conversation of a strong man about 100 meters away. This airport is quite chaotic. Several forces are observing. There are big connections behind the forces that attacked just now. It's interesting. It's really interesting. Jia Yan vaguely protected the 2 little ones more closely, and quietly told them not to leave him too far in the future. The 2 little guys heard this and knew that something was going to happen, but they were really not afraid. What are they afraid of when there is a senior domain master and a powerful person by their side? At least as far as they knew about the worldview, there was no existence beyond the lower ranks of senior domain lords. Don't be surprised, Jia Yan didn't say anything about powerful people like Tai's Hang. Even if he did, for example, after following Jia Yan to the black hole area, Edisha actually knew about Tai's Hang. But after becoming a living creature, she didn't know about Tai's Hang. The news gradually faded away on its own, which was very similar to what Jia Yan had experienced. Sure enough, the accident happened when Jia Yan and others went to a heavily armed car dealership on the roadside to select a vehicle. A group of powerful beings pushed open the door of the car dealership, and then glared at each other in front of the thugs who were about to break out in the car dealership. The thugs recognized the identity of the people who came, and suddenly became silent. Dare to speak. And the group of visitors came straight to Jia Yan and the other 3. Your Excellency, you are new here, right? There was an attack on the airport earlier. We want you to go there and accompany us to investigate. Jia Yan looked thoughtfully at the group of powerful men coming. There are 4 domain lords among them, and there are also more than a dozen ordinary galaxy levels. Their momentum is overwhelming and their strength is simply astonishing. Is this because he knows that his strength is not weak, so he sends so many strong men? Jia Yan slowly looked at the classic car in front of him. The speed of this car was okay, but the passenger's senses were not very good when riding in it. Let's get another one. It doesn't matter if it's slower. I have children here and I want them to be able to sit comfortably. Okay. The storekeeper was already sweating, but Jia Yan spoke. He knew that this boss was someone he couldn't afford to offend, so he had to continue serving. The group of strong men who asked Jia Yan stood there with great momentum for a long time, until little Edisha and Xiao Yu looked at each other and couldn't help laughing out loud. Only then did he react. My friend, didn't you hear what we said? Are you planning on toasting and not eating as a penalty? The leading territory lord level has vaguely reached the strength of the intermediate territory lord. Even if he is not the intermediate territory lord, he is about to break through. He believed that his strength was unparalleled, and his attitude towards Jia Yan was naturally extremely proud. Because Jia Yan's external strength is only the elementary level of a regional master, and the first level of a domain master for the first time. There were so many territory lords coming to them, and even if there were no other people, he thought that he could easily win against a new territory lord. God knows where this territory lord with 2 children got the courage to ignore his words. Sorry, Your Excellency, I was looking at the car. Jia Yan glanced sideways at the other party, shook his head and said with a normal expression, as for the attacker who attacked the airport, we have come all the way and have nothing to do with it. You don't need to investigate us anymore. Hey. The other party became interested and couldn't help but ridiculed. Everyone says this, so it's useless for us to investigate. My friend, now we are asking you, don't let us take action. Then the problem will be big. As he said that, he saw the strong Zerg-like creature he had invited, Jia Yan, half smiling. Looking back at the domain lord, Jia Yan said lightly, you know? Almost every time I hear someone say this, I feel very uncomfortable, because every time, they will beg for mercy, and my ears will feel like cocoons. Now, tell me, will you become like that? Huh? Ha 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 ha. The domain lord level being and several of his companions behind him were stunned at first, and then burst into bursts of laughter as if they were scratched by Jia Yan's fresh and refined words. Xiao Yuer couldn't understand what the adults were saying, but everyone laughed anyway. She also laughed heartily, and asked from time to time, "Ha ha ha, what? What are you talking about? Little guy, we are saying that your master is probably a brainless fool." She understood what he said, and immediately, like a hen caring for her chicks, her fish eyes widened, and she shouted, "No, you are the brainless fools, my master is the most powerful and smartest adult. It turns out that the whole family is full of fools." Puff. Before the territory lord could finish his words, a foot penetrated the territory lord's mind. Everything happened in a flash of lightning, as if they were laughing wildly just a moment ago, and the next moment, with a startling glance, the domain lord level had been severely injured. The smile froze on his face, and he seemed to still want to smile, but found that his head was missing. He stretched out his arms to touch it, but before that, he could not support his body and fell backwards. Ah! This! Jia Yan enjoyed the shocking expressions of this group of people, and shook his head calmly. "It's okay to slander me, but my disciple is still young and I don't allow you to slander me easily." At some point, a dish reacted quickly and blindfolded the little fish, leaving the little guy to scream, "What? What's wrong? What?" As a sister, she is quite competent. You, who are you? Damn it! How dare you kill the domain lord of our power? You are dead. You are dead. This person is powerful, but he definitely can't be a powerful person. As long as he is not a powerful person, we will report to the superiors and someone will definitely be able to deal with him. Jia Yan looked at the galaxy level who said that he was not a powerful level, shook his head, and thought to himself, "Good guy, this guy came up and removed one of the correct answers first." After carrying the dead domain lord, these guys didn't even dare to fart and ran toward the door in dejection. As for the pursuit, Jia Yan shook his head. As a lower-level territory lord, it would be a shame to chase down such a guy. At least for him, he couldn't do such a thing now. After all, there was someone watching. If there is no one in a remote place. The ferocious flame in Jia Yan's eyes flashed away. Anyway, these guys just ran away. Senior, the car you want may be available over there, and we can give you a big discount. The shopkeeper felt chills all over. As a store owner in this shabby area, and someone who dares to open a store near the airport, he is definitely not a normal store owner, and has even done many unethical things. So now, in front of such a strong man who could easily kill the domain lord level, he really planned to spend money to eliminate the disaster. Finally, half an hour later, Jia Yan drove out an off-road vehicle that could be called a luxury brand in the vast area. The money consumed is only 1/3 of the normal car price. Stores almost always give half off and half off. This car is a good ride. Ba ba ba. It's easy to drive. Edisha drove, Xiao Yuer sat in the passenger seat, and Jia Yan ran to the huge space in the back to rest. This picture is a bit reversed. However, Jia Yan really felt inferior to Edisha's driving skills, because when he was as Hineo, this was what he did professionally. So he safely left the driving to Edisha and ran to the back to think about things. What I saw and heard just now should be the norm in this riotous area. Jia Yan thought. The chaos in the Wuhe area shows that there are really great interests here, otherwise no ruler would be able to let such a situation happen. After all, instability means that the interests of the ruler will be divided up to the greatest extent. Different from the political, party and system countries on Earth, in a country ruled by the strong do not need to consider other people's feelings, they only need to consider their own interests. Therefore, the more peaceful the rule, the more the strong will be treated. Is beneficial. But the Wuhi area is like this, which shows that this place definitely does not have a stable ruler. Of course, Jia Yan had already seen this information. I just didn't expect it to be so deep. Well, while Jia Yan was thinking about it, he felt a slight force coming from the sky to explore. However, this force did not create the slightest sense of threat. It seemed that the other party was just testing, so Jia Yan didn't care so much and allowed the other party to take a clear look at his car. The opponent will be separated at the first touch. Jia Yan didn't know what conclusion this guy came to. In short, just when he was ready to discuss life with this visitor, the owner of this power disappeared inexplicably. As expected, he is indeed a strong man in a chaotic area. His subconscious sense of crisis is too strong. The other party must also be a fake powerful being, but when he retreated just now, there was not even the slightest sloppiness, so fast that even Jia Yan was a little surprised. But precisely because of this, he was able to almost dominate the airport area. Jia Yan doesn't care so much. It's best if the other party doesn't come to trouble him, but if it comes, he doesn't have the slightest fear of it. Adisha, the car doesn't need to turn around, just drive in a straight line. If there is no road, just fly. Okay. Aditha found a little bit of the feeling she had when she was the intelligence brain Aditha, controlling the vehicle, and singing some little songs happily, looking very happy. Jia Yan took out a local map and starts investigating. The first place he wanted to go to in this area was a position city near the airport. In this airport area, not far from each other is the confrontation between the two camps, and their confrontation has been there for decades. No one can do anything about the other, which eventually led to the troops on both sides fighting each other. Cities were built in the rear areas. Because they are cities in war zones, the two cities are most famous for their military resources and medical systems. A large number of lives are available for those who are interested in the medical system. There, it is said to be saving lives and healing the wounded, but in fact, it is doing quite disgusting human experiments. A certain notorious strong man is a master in this way, and the first person Jia Yan is looking for this time is actually this strong man. In the early stage of the senior domain lord, because his strength could not improve, the opponent chose to take the genetic path. In the end, he fought back and forth in the war zones on both sides and killed at least tens of thousands of soldiers. After reading the other party's information, Jia Yan smiled slightly. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3031. After reading the other party's information, Jia Yan smiled slightly. In fact, it is not a question of whether he dislikes such a strong person, because he himself is by no means an extremely decent being. He is just a little uncomfortable with the other party's methods and policies. But it's just uncomfortable. Black or white cats, as long as they can catch mice, they are good cats. The other party was able to advance the cause of genetic medicine to a near top level, which showed that the other party's research methods did have merits. Not to mention that Jia Yan still needed the other party's help, so naturally he would not criticize others for being inhumane. That guy has a weird temper. I hope it won't be so troublesome to communicate by then, otherwise the deal won't work out. I don't mind being unkind, it just happens to be justice for heaven. Jia Yan thought calmly. If it's beneficial to him, just endure it. If it's not beneficial to him, it's better for this guy to die. Between heaven and earth, there are many potholes on the road, and it is unknown how many hardships and wars it has endured. But on such roads, there are still vehicles walking on flat ground. It was Jia Yan who bought the luxury car at a low price and with high cost performance. This kind of car has an automatic balancing and a buffering system. Even if there is a pit hundreds of meters deep with passengers in the car's recognition system will make the car fly up and fly directly over it without even a tremor. In order to save energy, Edissa did not make the car fly. Running at a speed of 1900 km per hour on the ground is actually quite comfortable. It's a bit slow, but the scenery is picturesque and refreshing. Wow, Sister Editha, what a beautiful scenery. Even though the main tone of Wuhi area is black, in fact, the beautiful scenery created by the blend of black, white, and gray is not much worse than the colorful colors in the outside world. Especially some unique scenery, it looks really grand. A torrential feeling. Xiao Yuer was shocked by a black and white snow mountain, which was rare to see in the southern star snow mountain. Last time she and Jia Yan experienced so many ice and snow scenery, and now she felt a sense of intimacy when she saw the snow again. Does it look good? Then let's run over. Edisha laughed very strangely, and when the front of the car turned, the vehicle levitated into the sky. The next moment, the vehicle flew to the foot of the snow-capped mountain. Then, under Xiao Yuer's silent attention, the car rolled over the beautiful black and gray snow-capped mountains, a wheel mark directly running over it, leaving deep ruts. The snow-capped mountains several thousand meters high were forgotten in an instant. Xiao Yuer angrily looked at the snow-capped mountains that had been pressed out of the wheel. After destroying the beauty, she didn't feel happy either. Sister Edisha, how bad are you? It's not bad, okay. Jumping over there can save half an hour of travel. Edisha refused to admit that she was causing trouble. Jia Yan looked at the two quarreling little girls and couldn't help laughing. Speaking of which, what he and the two former Linan superstars want most is to open their eyes. In fact, there is another almost identical key idea, that is, Jia Yan believes that if he walks with the two of them, he will also be happy. Stand up. Xiao Yuer was alone last time, which was a bit lonely. Now with Edissa, not only can Edissa help him in many matters, but to a certain extent, Edissa can play a dual role with Xiao Yuer. The effect of this living treasure made his heart feel green and happy. This is probably Jia Yan's selfishness hidden deep in his heart. Boom boom boom. Suddenly, among the trees, there was a large amount of artillery fire and firearms, shooting out flames. Huh? Someone is attacking. Buzz. Jia Yan remained calm, and the power of his brain waves enveloped the entire car body in an instant, so that when the bullet hit the car, it did not cause any damage at all. Chai, this car is worth half of our village. If we kill the people in the car, we might gain a lot more. Behind him, in the place where a large amount of smoke was emitted from the shot, there were various creatures riding motorcycles, rushing out from behind trees or stone shelters, and approaching Jia Yan's luxury brand vehicle quickly. Oh! These guys are actually robbers. Jia Yan felt a little thoughtful as he felt the group of motorcycles behind him that looked shabby but ran faster than this luxury vehicle. The so-called robbers, also known as mountain bandits, had experienced a lot in his life. I just didn't expect that there were so many on Southern Superstar. Edisha, can you ensure that the vehicle is not hit? Okay. Edisha is quite confident, and this is her specialty. Jia Yan, however, was still looking at the map regardless of how he was dealing with them. Diddy. Until there were two motorcycles, Faika came to the side of the luxury vehicle. There was a strong insect-like man holding 50 or 60 firearms on his feet, aiming them at the cab, and then he was stunned. I saw that the driver of the vehicle was actually a kid who couldn't even reach the door pedal. I'm afraid that the car driven by Xiao Gitu uses the power of brain waves to pedal. This also shows that Xiao Gitu has a strength of almost half a star level or above. Hey, that's weird. Are you driving for a kid? The insect creature looked behind the car, looking for an adult to drink and say something that would make someone stop the car. But just as he looked behind the car, the other party's preemptive voice came from the luxurious chairs in the back of the car. Get out now, you still have a chance to survive. Jia Yan's slow voice did not carry any power, but it still moved people's hearts. but without the coercion of energy, the other party will definitely not retreat. After all, if those in this field are timid and easily intimidated, they would have starved to death long ago. Haha, there's a pretense here. A few more motorcycles came up behind, and everyone was smiling, as if they had seen something interesting. You're just showing off. I'll throw him into the lake later and keep him submerged for 10 days and a half until he begs for mercy. Let's see if he still shows off. That's good. Jia Yan was helpless. It was impossible for these guys to be easily scared away by him like those guys in the city. No wonder, people in the city can make money, but the bandits outside can only pick up takeaways, and sometimes they are even impoverished. Because they don't have the discernment that people in the city have. Little guy, what are you looking at? Suddenly, a bandit approached the passenger seat on the other side. He found a little fish wearing a seat belt and staring at him with a pair of big watery fish eyes. I'm not looking at you. Xiao Yuer's aura was as strong as anyone else's and he stared hard at the other person, but said he didn't want to look at him. Haha, I just like little kids like you, because little kids' eyes are so beautiful. They are the brightest stars in the world. However, I still like kids with nothing in their eyes. After saying that, the rider raised a firearm, pointed it at one of Xiao Yuer's eyes, and pulled the trigger under the little girl's curious look. Ah! At the same time that Xiao Yuer was targeted and pulled the trigger, Edisha, who was driving the vehicle, suddenly turned the steering wheel. They have no intention of letting Jia Yan do anything yet. Xiao Yuer fought fiercely with her appearance and words, while Edisha used her driving skills to have a fierce battle with the opponent. These two little guys are expressing their fighting intentions in different ways. Jia Yan had a lot of free time and silently paid attention to the actions of the little brats. Nod from time to time. These two little devils are still pretty good. While Xiao Yuer was talking, he would open the car window from time to time and make eye contact with each other, which made the motorcyclists who gathered around him furious. Edisha, on the other hand, swung the steering wheel fiercely from time to time, almost hitting several motorcycles and flying off the cliff. This was a method that made the other party angry, but also a little scrupulous. But overall, they are all weak counterattacks. If the other party hadn't wanted this luxury car that could be sold at a high price, I'm afraid they would have used drastic measures to destroy the vehicle, and Jia Yan here would have taken action long ago. Jia Yan is also happy to see the results, and Adisha and the others just try to fight in their own way. When leading disciples, they really need to let them get started on their own, otherwise if they continue to protect them, no matter how talented they are, they will just bring out a group of beings who can only bully the weak. Jia Yan's characteristic is that the weak can defeat the strong. If none of his disciples can beat him, then where can he put his face? Good guys, these two little ones are pretty awesome. It's just that the boss behind them is so useless. The bandits laughed wildly, especially those who ridiculed Jia Yan. Their eyes glanced at Jia Yan in the back seat of the car with strong contempt. They didn't know whether the person in the back row was a strong man or some kind of big boss, but that didn't stop them from looking down on each other. Whether it is a boss or a strong person, it is simply ridiculous for them to need children to do it. Bandits are actually very strong-willed beings. And beings who dare not take action, and even seem timid and fearful, are almost the most despised to them. Usually, if they encounter such beings in G-Dao, they will almost use the most cruel method to hit the target. Kill. Now, they seem to have met another being who needed them to use that method. As for the two little ones, although they admire them, these guys will not give them preferential treatment because of this. Instead, they will choose to keep them as pets to see if any rich people in the surrounding area will buy the children as pets. Therefore, bandits are a group of unscrupulous characters who truly only live for themselves. Boom boom boom. The road ahead started to get bumpy. Edisha had to make the car fly, but if this continued, the vehicle's fuel consumption would rise extremely high, and it would eventually end up running out of gas. The motorcycles behind them were still speeding along the bumpy mountain roads under the superb operating skills of many bandits. After all, they were specially modified cars, which were different from luxury cars. When the luxury car runs out of gas, it becomes theirs. Oh, let me do it. After all, this car has no weapons and it is not convenient for you to operate. Jia Yan sighed. It was finally his turn to take action. Of course, he didn't expect Edisha to take down a group of bandits with her driving skills. After all, they were civilian vehicles. No matter how high her driving skills were, she couldn't kill people out of thin air. The opponent also has 2 galaxy-level enemies. Hey, is that big boss going to take action? Ha ha ha, you are as timid as a rat. You know you can't escape, so you plan to take action. Maybe the big boss is actually a master. Bullshit, which master would tolerate us scolding us for so long? Hey, great master, you kill me. If you have the ability, kill me. Otherwise, I will look down on you and only think of resisting in desperate situations. Puff. The person who spoke last could only say half a sentence before his head burst open. The entire bandit team paused for a moment, and then burst into laughter. Ha 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 ha, a star-level guy died like this. It's so funny. It's useless to laugh at others. You'll die in one hit. I'm so happy. I'm going to treat this as a joke from now on and tell the big guys in the mountains. After laughing for a moment, the whole demeanor of the bandits changed, and they looked at Jia Yan one by one with their blood-red eyes. Okay, I've laughed. We have to avenge our brother's death. Although this guy sought his own death, he did die at the hands of an enemy. If we don't avenge him, what kind of brothers can we be? Kill. They also knew that the so-called boss was actually a truly powerful being. But for characters like bandits, the only way they can maintain relationships is to use their heroic personalities. Everyone thinks about their brothers. If a person dies, they will find ways to seek revenge. Without such blood and good relationships, bandits or the relationship cannot be maintained. So even though they didn't know how powerful the insect-like man in the back row was, they decided to take action. It is not that we have never encountered such existences before. Even those at the Domain Lord level have been killed by their locust-like offensive, riding motorcycles, being familiar with the terrain, and using various trap techniques. You can't. This person is still above the Domain Lord level, right? He was a big shot from various forces. How could he travel by car with 2 little kids on such a small road? Shouldn't he be flying around in the sky in a comfortable plane? However, these guys forgot one thing. That is, even experts will sometimes get tired of flying or vomit and want to sit in a car on the ground. And what's wrong with raising children? Are strong people not allowed to have family members or something like that? Jia Yan smiled. Act recklessly. After saying this calmly, he looked at Edisha. Edisha understood. Several baffles immediately fell down around the passenger seat where Xiao Yuer was, completely blocking Xiao Yuer's view. Huh? I can't see it. The little fish can't see anything. The little fish screamed. At the same time, Jia Yan's brainwave power was slightly released. Puff, 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 puff. The knights behind them were like firecrackers. Their heads exploded one after another. Watermelons seemed to have a large amount of blood colors blooming in the air. Tomorrow, that is, today, I have a day off. I haven't rested for a long time everyone. Remember to come to cheateon.com to subscribe for the official version, thank you. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3032. red, blue, green, purple, black. A large amount of blood of various colors, like 100 flowers blooming, is very frightening to see. After all, we have reached the southern giant star now, and the life forms are already different from those in the Orion arm. It is natural that there is a large amount of blood of different colors. Ha ha. Adisha smiled childishly, as if this was a murder caused by her. This. Parking. Supermaster. Stop chasing. Did brothers die in vain? So what if you die in vain? Do you want to catch up and die again? The motorcycles behind them suddenly reduced their presence by more than half, and all of them suddenly looked extremely ugly, and all of them stepped forward and stopped moving forward. Master, brother, won't you kill them all? Adisha asked with some surprise. No, we still need to keep them to inform others later. Otherwise, who knew we were so powerful? Oh, Adisha understands. Do you want to keep them to tell others that we are very powerful and don't want to die? Adisha, you are such a coward. He, Adisha is the best child to teach. The two of them were talking to each other, but Xiao Yuer anxiously opened the shield and looked back. The scene of the battle just now was no longer there, and he couldn't help but feel a little disgusted. Xiao didn't see anything again, so annoying. Bah, bah, bah. She spit out unhappy grey bubbles. Jia Yan put one foot on the other person's head and touched it, and said softly, "Little guy, you are still young. If you want to see large-scale bloodshed, you should wait until you are over 20 years old. Otherwise I am really afraid that you will become a bad guy who only knows blood." Wow, bad guy, Xiao doesn't want to be a bad guy, then Xiao won't watch anymore. Hey, after you are 20 years old, if you don't want to see it, I will show it to you as a teacher. Otherwise, how can you become a strong man? Yeah, well, then wait until Xiao is 20, Xiao won't be afraid. Xiao Yuer nodded seriously. Adisha covered her mouth on one side and laughed. She thought she had received privileges, at least higher than Xiao Yuer's, because she started her bloody life not long after she was born. Although it was just a created world, the blood inside was not at all as bloody as there are few outsiders. Of course, her life structure is different from ordinary life forms. In this regard, Jia Yan is relieved. It is not easy to change Adisha's mentality. In this way, the group of bandits whose heads were exploded by Jia Yan's blow turned around one by one and passed the news to the rear. A top-notch strong man is causing trouble with two little ones, driving a super luxury car in this area. You'd better not mess with him. Of course, some people took the news they spread seriously, but many people did not. The entire bandit force is by no means monolithic, and several are still rivals of this force. Hey, are you the so-called super strong? It just so happens that I have reached the domain lord level a few days ago. Let me see if you, the so-called super strong, can surprise me. A strong man was intercepted in the middle of the road, eager to try. Before he finished speaking, his head exploded. Huh? What is it again? The co-pilot heard the sound of Xiao being blocked. When she opened the shield, the vehicle had already passed through the middle of the road. No matter how she looked back, she couldn't see clearly what was happening behind her. Haha, Adisha cooperates well. Jia Yan couldn't help but praise Adisha loudly. Xiao Yuer refused and shouted loudly, "Xiao Yuer is also cooperating well, Xiao Yuer is also cooperating well. Yes, you cooperated well. This jungle road is neither long nor short." Aditha's superb technology kept the car at around 800 km per hour. However, she drove for several days without eating, drinking, or sleeping before finally reaching an area 100,000 kilometers away. It took more than 5 days to travel 100,000 kilometers. Even though Adisha had reached a semi-star level of strength, she was still dizzy and overwhelmed by driving. "We're finally here," Brother Master, Edisha needs to find a place to rest. Okay, let's arrange a hotel room to rest. Jia Yan opened the Smart Brain program on Nangxingxing and clicked on the reservation of the guest room. Fortunately, the two war zones have formed cities, so places like hotels still exist. Otherwise, if it were a pure war zone, they would really not know how to arrange their life problems. Of course, if a large social area had not been formed, I am afraid that the so-called powerful Dr. Jia Yan wanted to find would not come here to study. Tisk, tisk, if I don't tell you about the hotel here, I'm afraid no one will think that it is inside the so-called war zone. Arriving at a hotel area, Jia Yan and Edisha Xiaoyu looked at the scenery outside the hotel and felt relaxed and happy. A large number of black and grey woods were right in front of them, which gave them a high-end feeling. The hotel is good, but the price is really high. Fortunately, most of Jia Yan's money in Nangxingxing was paid filial piety by the strong or obtained from enemies, so he didn't feel any guilt at all when he wasted it. In other words, during Jia Yan's life, he almost never had to worry about money. There would always be a lot of short-sighted people who would jump out and let Jia Yan grab some benefits when he was short of money or resources. Now, although he has long thought about cultivating his moral character, he doesn't mind if anyone comes to pay tribute. After all, he is cultivating his moral character and not being a coward. Guest, I wonder if you are strong. If so, you need to register. Our war zone is the front line no matter what. If you don't register, it does not comply with the regulations. In the hotel, the waiter who let Jia Yan and the others smiled and asked for their information after Jia Yan and others had booked hotel rooms and paid money. This is very smart. Many powerful people don't really want to leave any traces of their whereabouts. There are even some who are simply members of the enemy's intelligence organization, and they don't dare to leave any traces. In that case, they would choose not to report their information and leave directly. As for the hotel, they would be able to earn money for the guest rooms that the other party stayed. As for causing trouble, it doesn't exist. This is a war zone. If the hotel does not have a strong background, or even if it is established by the military, it will not be able to open stably. They are afraid that you will not cause trouble. That is the contribution point of the army. Oh? Leave our private information? Of course. Jia Yan smiled when he heard this. This southern superstar, or every superstar, has a way to distinguish the strength of the strong. Jia Yan has encountered it before. At that time, his choice was the same as others, and he directly left the place where his strength needed to be left. But that situation is only for the strong ones under the senior domain masters. After reaching the senior domain master, it is no longer easily detectable by any detection method. Not to mention, Jia Yan is not a senior territory lord, but a junior territory lord above the senior territory lord. Huh? Stellar level. After the other party took out a detection device and detected Jia Yan's strength, even the waiter who led them showed a look of surprise. Not too strong, but too weak. Jia Yan's temperament, demeanor, and various feelings revealed are all the overall appearance of a supermaster. However, the detection method only detected fluctuations at the stellar level, not even the galaxy level. To put it bluntly, this kind of strength in the Wuhi area is just the scum of the war. Not to mention being wary of both sides, even if you want to become a soldier, you may be disliked. Edisha and Xiaoyu, one is at the half-star level, and the other is at the cuter little sky level peak, which directly makes the waiter who is already at the half-star level peak speechless. The three people in this group, who thought they were strong, turned out to be a bunch of weaklings. Of course, even if he was a weakling, he wouldn't dare to take advantage of these three people. In a war zone, if you are a monopoly, it will be dangerous, because the military will try to take your idea. But if you are a small person, you will be magically safe here. After all, it is the main force that maintains the prosperity of the entire region. The key is the little people. Of course, another more real reason is that there is too little money for small people, and the military does not like them. Even if there were people behind him, the waiter couldn't cover the sky with just one hand. Without great benefits, he had to give up the idea of dealing with this weak family. Haha, this little brother is so funny, I'm stunned. After Adisha entered the large suite, she was in high spirits in the room. After all, some people regard the brother master as a weakling. This is a rare situation that has been encountered in a long time. How could Adisha not find it interesting? It's interesting, it's so interesting, Baba Baba. Xiao Yue recently invented a new move, spitting out a big bubble, and then quickly got into it. The bubble actually ignored the rules of the South Star, carried her floating in the air, and did not break until a minute later. Adisha discovered this and asked her to spit out bubbles so that Adisha could breathe in. The two little kids were laughing and rolling inside. If the private room had not been well soundproofed, other customers might have breathed out the fragrance. If Xiao Yue's skills are further developed, they might become exclusive abilities that belong only to her. But Jia Yan just looked at it and didn't say a word. This kind of thing needs to be discovered by Xiao Yue herself. Only with a heart that loves research can she research and develop her own exclusive skills. Otherwise, if others force her, she may become rebellious in a few days and don't want to. Done. It's not easy to get into a field hospital. Jia Yan opened a network in this area, mainly investigating how to enter the field hospital here. However, field hospitals are considered important military facilities. Except for soldiers and their families, at least the field hospitals in this frontline city are extremely difficult to get into. Jia Yan didn't think that he could get what he wanted by sneaking in quietly and then kidnapping the so-called miracle doctor. Although Nan Yuxing pays more attention to private strength research, he also has a lot of equipment to assist. Especially in medicine, without equipment, even the most powerful miracle doctor cannot display 100% of his ability, or even 100%. 10 out of 10 abilities may not be fully utilized. So he prepared another way to blend in. Aren't you recruiting strong people from outside? I'll sneak in as a strong person. Adisha, for the rest of the time, you can have a good rest in the hotel. I will not go out of a radius of 100 kilometers. For me, this distance can be reached in an instant. If there is any danger, please report it to me directly. I will come back immediately to rescue. Okay. It was really a helpless move to leave Xiao Yue to the unreliable Adisha. However, the so-called unreliability of Adisha is actually quite reliable. She has extremely serious and upright views on major matters, and being mischievous is just a result of her personality. So Jia Yan is generally relieved. The second day. The sun was shining brightly and lots of leaves were floating in the sky. There will always be endless leaves to sweep on the road, and the sanitation workers will complain in low voices from time to time on the roadside. If this scene were in a quiet city farther away, it might give people a peaceful and beautiful artistic conception of a small town. But it seemed a bit abrupt if it was dropped only dozens of kilometers away from the front line. The confrontation between the two armies in this ragtag area has lasted for tens or hundreds of years, otherwise it would not have developed to the level of a small city in a war zone. The recruiting office is already deserted. Jia Yan walked to the place shown on the map and suddenly burst into laughter. The two armies were fighting, and the area was anxious. Not only did they not have the opportunity to win military exploits or capture benefits, but they also had no possibility of promotion. They even had lower military pay and the possibility of casualties, which led to the recruits being unable to make ends meet. Stop, what do you do? I'm here to sign up for your army. Recruit? Okay, you fill out a form, and then someone will pick you up and take you to the corresponding place. The soldier at the door looked at Jia Yan, and then became a little more easygoing. Because Jia Yan's demeanor doesn't look like a weakling, if he joins the army, he might be his superior. The result was not what he expected. Jia Yan filled in the column of strength as first-time domain master. The strength of the territory lord level cannot be said to be outstanding among the superstars, but he is definitely not a weakling. At least he can be regarded as a serious first-class master. If you enter the army, you may take off in no time. Hello, please wait a moment, I will report to my superiors. The few soldiers guarding the gate suddenly became silent and nodded and bowed to Jia Yan. Not long after, a figure descended from the sky. The other party found out about a domain lord and came to sign up. They were so anxious that they flew from the sky. This shows how thirsty they are for the domain lord. This is brother Jia Yan who came to sign up, right? Oh, brother, you are a domain lord. If you had informed me earlier, I would have led a group of senior officials to wait for you at the door today. Haha, Jia is just passing by here and wants to go to the battlefield to experience it. If your army has any death clauses, please allow Jia not to join the army. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3033. Wherever, there are naturally restrictions on lower-level troops, but for domain lords like you, we will only treat them sincerely, and there are not many restrictions at all. Of course, 1 year is the bottom line. There are also requirements for participation in the battlefield, etc. You can come in and take a look, and we will explain them to you one by one. The person who came was also at the domain lord level, but at the deep level of a domain lord, and was only one step away from being a senior domain lord. Obviously belongs to the absolute upper echelons of this battlefield. Along the way, there were several figures flying in the sky, approaching in the air, and they all tried their best to say good things to Jia Yan, the junior domain master. After all, this war zone has become somewhat quiet, and new recruits and new blood are gradually drying up. Many people are worried that it may become a lack of strength here, or it may simply become a matter of negotiating a peace agreement with the other party, and eventually it will become completely where the border is. And with a newcomer, and a powerful newcomer at that, their strength must be directly higher than that of their opponent. Next time they fight, they can make breakthroughs based on this advantage, and maybe there will be unexpected surprises. Haha, sit down, brother Jia Yan, let me tell you, why do you feel so happy today? It turns out that a brother like you is joining our base camp. That's right, with the addition of brother Jia Yan, our army will surely make great progress in the future. Jia Yan was a little dumbfounded. These guys really welcomed him too much. The next thing he did, he was too embarrassed to take action against the other party. Everyone, don't be too happy. Jia said just now that he just came to take a look. Maybe he won't join your army. I can't come to take a look. You have to force me to join. Suddenly someone quickly explained, that's natural. For things like joining the army, you must agree to it. We strong men are not just a mortal army. If a strong man can't think of anything, he may kill one of the troops. There are many means and methods. If we force a strong person to join, then we will only worry about ourselves. It's true what he said. Jia Yan and this group of high-level strong men can be said to be back and forth. One is Lang Yuking, the other is Concubine Xinyi. Lang Qingyu and Concubine Xinyi, don't they hit it off immediately? Very good, after signing this clause, brother Jia Yan will become our true comrades in arms. That's great. Finally, another domain lord level warrior has arrived. I'll pay the bill tonight and I won't come back until I'm drunk. I have to say that the atmosphere in the army is really good. The senior executives are all extremely heroic. They led Jia Yan to the consumption place. As senior executives, they certainly couldn't make themselves sad. Just like ordinary soldiers, they stood guard all day long to limit their desires. That was something only the weak could do, and this group of strong men has countless resources and consumes things that ordinary soldiers will never be able to do in their lifetime. There were even some pretty impressive female creatures on the scene. They specially found some beauties who looked like insects for Jia Yan. Unfortunately, Jia Yan seemed to lack interest, so everyone had to give up. Racial hobbies are quite confusing in the starry sky. No one knows what the female of his species looks like for a male who looks like an insect. She might look like a human female, so if you want to give it a try, it is also a headache for acquaintances to find females, and if the other party refuses, you are not sure whether they do not give you face or are really not interested. Thanks to this, Jia Yan was able to reject the kind of female creatures he didn't like. Of course, even without those regulations and realities, if he really doesn't want to give face to the other party, it's just a matter of words. Brother Jia Yan, you said you want to go to the battlefield right away. Yes, I mentioned it before when I started. I came to the battlefield to hone my combat skills, so I would like to ask some comrades to give me some face. For those statistics, please let me go for the time being and just let me know. I just go to the battlefield and kill the enemy. Brother Jia Yan, you said you are a newly promoted territory lord, right? It is normal to have strong self-confidence after a new promotion, but for a newly promoted person like you, there is a high probability of being injured or even dead on the battlefield. Yes, I think you should find an opportunity to have a good discussion with us, and wait until we help you develop a formal view of the strong before you can enter the battlefield. It's really unnecessary. Looking back, when Jia Yan was talking to this group of newly acquainted brothers, he revealed his strong desire to go to the battlefield to practice. Everyone has experienced this state, especially those who have just succeeded in advancing to the next level. This is the time when they are most confident in themselves and want to verify their strength the most. As a result, the group of domain masters who led Jia Yan into the army looked at each other with a headache. They naturally hope that this new combat force will enter the front line, which may give new excitement to the stagnant war effort. But if the other party is injured or even killed just after arriving, wouldn't it be a big dream for no reason and a waste of expressions? Okay, but Brother Jia Yan, you are really a newly promoted person and don't understand the methods of the territory lord level. Tomorrow's battle, you'd better watch the battle behind us, and wait until we let you take action, then you take action not too late. Okay, I will definitely listen to you brothers. Jia Yan seemed impatient and geared up. This kind of behavior made several domain lords feel dumbfounded. However, being so willing to fight is in line with their requirements. As long as he has to deal with the unrealistic fighting requirements of this person in the past, when he matures, he will be a domain lord level powerhouse that meets the requirements. In the future, this maybe there will be a turn for the better in the movie Battlefield. The next day. The front line battlefield may be said to be the front line, but in reality it has become nothing more than thunder and rain after dozens or hundreds of years of fighting. The cities built by both sides were only a dozen kilometers away in the middle of the two big cities. The troops sent were also extremely sparse. Having fought fiercely for decades or hundreds of years in the war zone, both sides have long been accustomed to such days. In the morning, they went out for a battle, and sometimes they used excessive words to fight twice. Not many people died, and the high-level strong ones were not injured for several years. Then they paid the money and retreated. Both sides have become accustomed to this fighting rhythm. Today we have a secret weapon. You pretend to be a ragtag army and wait to die. Come on, I've heard you fake rabble talk about the secret weapon hundreds of times, but it's never come true. What's the trick this time? Come up with it quickly so I can wait for more. An after-dinner joke. Humph, Jia Yan, come out. Yes. When Jia Yan leapt out from behind the troops, he really caused a bit of noise to both the enemy and us. A domain lord level powerhouse that I have never met before. A new territory lord level actually joined your side? My friend, Why did you join their side? Our side is also good. If you join our army, in the future, our army will definitely have the rank of Major General in the Dingwuhi area. The leader of the opponent, a senior domain lord, had a sinister expression on his face. No need, I'm not here to get a military rank when I join the war, let alone a fake rabble military rank. I don't like it even more. You bastard. How dare you utter such arrogant words as a junior regional master, go ahead. The senior domain master suddenly became angry and led his subordinates into a fierce battle. These two armies have true powers behind them, leading them. Although I don't know how true their so-called truth is, anyway, the fight between the two sides is in full swing, and they have already started fighting over the orthodoxy issue in the Wuhi area. Hundreds of years. So far, both sides are calling each other a fake rabble force. Jia Yan, a newcomer, directly called the other party a fake rabble force when he first arrived. This shows that his heart is completely towards his own troops in the rear, and there is no possibility of negotiating terms. Therefore, the enemy's senior domain master took action without saying a word. Be careful. If this new territory lord dares to speak loudly, he might have some powerful means. Besides, we are missing a territory lord. We only fight to defend ourselves. Tomorrow the Japanese army commander will go to the rear. We need a territory lord to come and level the war. The enemy's senior domain master issued instructions to his comrades behind him. However, he soon discovered that his instructions were a little too careful. In other words, the enemy's new territory lord level was so good that he was shocked. Puff, dang, dang. Jia Yan had a fight with a first-level domain lord. As soon as he got into the fight, he was immediately beaten back by the opponent's attacks, which seemed to be quite strenuous. Ah! That's it? Are you really the first to enter the domain lord level? Then you dare to talk nonsense. Both sides were a little confused. This big brother really came to the front line of the battlefield to practice his combat power, and his combat power seems to be a bit too weak. He is a new domain master, but he is really stuck on the line that just happened to enter the domain. If you are even a little bit weaker, you will probably be called a half-territory lord. Although he has never reached the semi-domain lord level, everyone believes that the title awarded to this new domain lord is truly worthy. A bit too weak. Puff. After a full 10 moves, blood spurted out of Jia Yan's mouth, and his breath became sluggish. Brother Jia Yan, let me help you. You go and get treated. The extra territory lord of our side just thought he could be lazy today, but he didn't expect that Jia Yan couldn't hold on until he finished watching a scene. He suddenly couldn't laugh or cry, and rushed towards Jia Yan, resisting Jia Yan's opponent. Well, I'm taking a rest. I'm sorry. I'm just a new domain master. After fighting a few battles, I will be able to help our army win. Okay, you go back for treatment, and then just let me deal with it. Not only the friendly troops, but also the powerful enemies looked at each other, watching Jia Yan stumble and fly up, as if he was seriously injured, leaving the battlefield and flying towards the military hospital. No, where did you find this best thing? Are you going to send him to the battlefield to make us laugh to death? The enemy's senior domain lord was playing house with the friendly army's senior domain lord, but his eyes were a little strange. The senior domain leader of the friendly forces felt that his face was dull and wanted to dig a hole to bury himself in. You really embarrass yourself by recruiting such a guy. I thought he was at the domain lord level, and it looked a bit impressive, but he didn't expect that it only took 10 moves, it really only took 10 moves, and the opponent was in his normal state, casually using 10 moves as if he were practicing, and he was seriously injured. If he hadn't seen that Jia Yan wasn't pretending, he would have thought that this guy was acting. Alright. In fact, Jia Yan is just acting. It's just that his acting is so high-end that even the Oscar-winning actors on Earth can't compare to him. No matter how you say it, they are all dignified and capable. Ah, it hurts so much. I'm seriously injured. I need medical treatment. Jia Yan groaned and flew back. On the way, a star-level medical soldier immediately flew into the sky and helped Jia Yan to the ground. What a serious injury. Sir, please wait a moment. An ambulance is coming. The medical soldier was also shocked. He was on the battlefield just now as the person in charge today, ready to receive the wounded here. The two sides have been fighting fiercely at the junction of the two cities for decades. Everyone has mastered the process of the battle and the control of casualties in the battle. We will send a star class here this time because we believe that among the injured this time, they should be some star class, and the number of deaths should be controlled to a very low level. But he never expected that a strange territory lord level was also injured, and he was injured at the beginning of the war. The ambulance arrived soon. Jia Yan was in severe pain in the car, and his health index dropped rapidly, causing the medical staff on the vehicle to panic. That shouldn't be the case. Logically speaking, how could a domain lord be seriously injured and dying like this? Could it be some accident? Even among mortals, people are often smashed to death by soybeans. The domain lord level may also have some key vital points hit, leaving a fatal flaw. Yes, that must be the case. Lord Jia Yan's race may have this kind of flaw, but we don't do much research on special races. What to do? Just when everyone was at a loss, and even discussing which great doctor to send him to, there was no conclusion. Beside them, a voice suddenly said, "Why don't you give it to Dr. Mosquito to take a look at?" Yes, give it to Dr. Mosquito. He is a top talent in genetics and longevity science. He will definitely be able to find a solution. That's right, whoever thought of it is a genius. Everyone recalled the place where the sound had just come from, and then looked at the embarrassed Master Jia Yan who was lying on the ambulance bed with a strange expression. It hurts, it hurts. Jia Yan had no choice but to continue screaming at the top of his lungs, and they finally gave up on pursuing this sentence. Maybe Lord Jia Yan knew Lord Mosquito's medical skills from somewhere. After all, that person's medical skills were astounding. At least in this area, there were few people with his medical skills.